on right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Sterling Holmes, Dylan Michaels, heading up until 2 o'clock. The next 4 hours, we've got you a lot of stuff to get into and talk about today. 913-912-4810 is the text line. 913-912-4810, text line to join us today. You can also give us a call, 913-381-810. Your phone calls day after a Chiefs game. Up until about 11:35, 11:40 or so. Then we'll talk with Josh Kaiser, One Royal Way podcast. Get his thoughts and see if the Royals win again this year. Since September 15th, the Chiefs have 2 more wins than the Royals do. Since September 15th. That's good, but we'll talk a lot of Chiefs today. Again, Josh Kaiser will join us about 11:40 or so. Then Field Yates coming up at noon. ESPN NFL Insider. We'll hear from Andy Reid in his press conference today. Mick Schaefer, 1 o'clock, KSHB 41 Sports Director, will be our guest. We got Learn Funniest Best before the show is over as well. Then tonight, doubleheader Monday Night Football right here on Sports Radio 810, starting at 6:30, Jags at Bills. And then Commanders at Bengals. We will join that one in progress today. 913-912-4810. All right, so let's start with the Kansas City Chiefs. They get the win. They are 3-0. And my main takeaway from this is, it hasn't been pretty. They haven't looked like world beaters. They haven't looked like some perfect team. The offense hasn't looked like I thought or hoped it would look like early on in the season. And yet they are still undefeated. Yet they are still one of 5 teams that have not lost a game yet this year. One of 4 teams that are 3-0. I think the Bills will win tonight against the Jags at home. Although we saw some pretty screwy things this weekend over the last couple of weeks, really. So who knows what happens with that. But I think the Bills will remain undefeated in 3-0, and the Chiefs will be one of 5 teams that continue to be 3-0. 3 of those teams in the AFC, along with the Pittsburgh Steelers. And then, of course, as everybody predicted, the Minnesota Vikings and Seattle Seahawks would be the other 2. They remain undefeated. And it could be a whole lot worse. They could have had a game where you say, did they save their season? Like the Baltimore Ravens going to Dallas and playing that way. Did they save their season? The Los Angeles Rams coming back and scoring 10 points in the last 3.5 minutes, down 21-7 to the 49ers and coming back and winning that game and saving their season. Instead of being 0-3, they're now tied with the 49ers at 1-2. Although the Seahawks running away with that division at 3-0. With their really tough schedule of the Denver Broncos, the New England Patriots, and third-string quarterback Miami Dolphins. So I'm going to sell my Seattle Seahawks stock at 3-0 right now. I'm going to sell high right now. I'm going to sell it at its most valuable peak at 3-0. But it hasn't been pretty. Patrick Mahomes has struggled so far this year. He hasn't looked like Patrick Mahomes for the most part. He is allowed to be human. And he talked about it. We'll play some clips from Patrick Mahomes after the game last night, that you heard right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB in the postgame, about his self-assessment and his struggles so far this year, that he hasn't been doing what, he expects himself to do. Travis Kelce has 69 yards this season. Nice, but not very nice for him. I bet he would probably say that's not nice. But a total in 3 games, less than 70 yards for Travis Kelce. And yet, this team is still undefeated. You don't get to give the games back because you won by a toe, you won with a toe, and then you won with the 4th down stop.
Yeah.
Or a non-call, whatever. Bleep off. You won the game. And that's ultimately what matters. I do want to talk a little bit about what we saw in this performance. Again, 913-381-810. We'll get into your thoughts. Before we get into maybe some specific things, although you can certainly get into specifics if you want to, Sterling, your assessment, takeaway from the Chiefs remaining 3-0, winning 22-17. I was wrong. I said they would win 23-17, so I missed the boat on that one.
Close.
Yeah, but anyway, go ahead. What's your takeaway, Sterling?
The Chiefs, to me, as someone who's not a huge fan of flying, it's like severe turbulence.
Okay.
Where you know it's going to be okay. They're built for this. The plan's going to land, and you're going to be safe, and everything's okay. Well, it's like the Chiefs game. The Chiefs, during the game, you're terrified. You're nervous. What's going on? You're bouncing around. And then they land the plane, and you look up, and it's 22-17, Chiefs win. It's severe turbulence. You're going to be nervous when it's happening. And mentally, you know the result. You know you're okay. But you won't feel okay until the game's over or the plane's landed. And that's the Kansas City Chiefs.
It's one of those to where you feel like the whole time they're going to find a way to win the game. It's a great point. You feel like the entire time the pilot's going to find a way to get through this, and you'll be fine because the odds of that happening are incredibly rare.
But my heart rate is going to be through the roof.
Exactly. No doubt about it. It's a great way to describe what is going on with this Chiefs team because they found ways to win games, and they have now won 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 games in a row. 8 of those 9 games being by one score.
It's what great teams do,
Yeah.
and I talk about this all the time. For everyone who goes, well, they've won by one score. They're winning. Look around the NFL right now.
Yeah.
Look at they lost by one score. Look at what happened. The Broncos decimating the Buccaneers.
Yeah.
Look at the Lions winning by one score over the Arizona Cardinals. Like, it's winning. The NFL is built for parity. I mean, look at the Panthers. Panthers destroyed the Raiders. Andy Dalton looked like the second coming of prime Mahomes, of Joe Montana out there.
Right.
Like, you just got to win. Every single game almost always comes down to 1 or 2 plays.
Yeah.
The Chiefs make those plays.
Yeah, and that's exactly right. It's what they've done. The one exception in those 9 games has been that Miami Dolphins game in which they won 26-7. Yeah. Every other game since that Christmas Day loss has been by one score, in which they have found a way to win the game. Not all of them have been pretty, because there have been times where they could have closed out a game and not made it as close as it ended up being. I mean, you could have closed out the game against Buffalo if you did not fumble into the end zone. Instead, you forced a field goal attempt and they missed it. You could have closed out the Baltimore Ravens game many times in the second half. Many, many, many times in the second half. Credit to the Ravens for the defense they played, but also huge credit to the Chiefs and the defense they played. They did eventually close it out by having that third down conversion, Mahomes to MVS. The Chiefs could have closed down the game offensively at the end of regulation with a touchdown, but still, they needed a field. That not as much as the other ones. Obviously, week number 1 against the Ravens had opportunities. Ended up punting the ball back. Against the Bengals, opportunities late. Then they got the ball back and kicked the field goal when they had to have it. And then they went 0 for 2 in the game last night to put the game away. They had a 5-point lead twice with the ball late in the fourth quarter with 4 minutes or less to go. Or 6 minutes or less to go, whatever. And they didn't get it done. But a lot of those games, the Chiefs end up winning, and we talk about the defense coming through and playing the way that they have played. The defense has not been pretty overall this year. It has not been great. It hasn't been as dominant as it felt like it was a year ago. But how many consecutive games have they gone now without giving up 28 points? I mean, honestly, it's I meant to look up the number, but it's a ridiculous number in a row of what they've gone without giving up just simply 28 points. A lot of defenses give up 28 points in one game along the way. You run into something. You know, you have a broken play here or there. And they've had a couple of broken plays. But still, 17 points against the Falcons, 25 points against the Bengals,
Yep.
and 20 points against the Ravens.
If it wasn't for a broken play, The Falcons may have only had 10 points. I mean, it was
Yeah.
Najee Johnson and Drew Tranquill, who, again, we can get to Drew a little later on, and maybe even Najee Johnson. But I want to give a huge shout-out to Nick Bolton.
Oh, my gosh.
For
yeah.
all of the concern the first couple weeks, and I think rightfully so for a guy who wants to be paid like a top 5 linebacker, right, from all accounts. Dude was incredible. This was a top 5 performance.
Yeah.
This is what gets you paid. The first 2 games of the season, I love Nick Bolton. I'm a Mizzou alum. I've seen him play much better games.
Yeah.
Again, I thought he actually played better week 2 than week 1 by a long shot. But this game, he was phenomenal in all facets. And how fitting was it that he was the guy able to come downhill for the final play of the game just to seal it? 3.
Yeah.
3 tackles for loss in this game. Dude was a menace.
On that last play, Mike Pennell, Leo Chenal, and Nick Bolton. Those 3 guys. Pennell destroyed, I think it was the center or the left guard. And Leo Chenal was just pushing the sled. I mean, all the work, like if you talk to high school kids or college kids, and they're like, good God, here we go, pushing the sled again. I mean, let's play football. Pushing the sled again. Go show them that clip of Leo Chenal on the 4th down play, firing off the ball against the left tackle, and just pushing the sled back into the backfield, opening up that wide gap that Nick Bolton shoots his shot, as he said, reads it, puts his defense in the right position because of earlier in the game when he missed a call, and you've got guys in front of you that did their job. Pennell kicked his guy's ass, and Leo Chenal picked that guy up and pushed him 4 yards into the backfield. And there was no chance for Bijan Robinson to weave around that guy, then turn the corner. When you have one of the more sure tacklers in the NFL in Nick Bolton, the game was over. There were other guys too that did their job on that play.
Sure.
But you've got 3 guys, 2 of them, that just whipped their one-on-one battle. And Nick Bolton being a guy that's where his strength is. He's got some shortcomings. Nobody's going to deny that. The biggest Nick Bolton fans in the world will tell you he's got his shortcomings. But the biggest Nick Bolton detractors, I would think that they would be fair enough to say that's an element where he truly excels and is at his best in something along those lines. That's where he makes his money and makes a difference for the Chiefs. Flaws in his game. That's not one of them. That's what makes him a good linebacker and someone that Spags wants out there, 100% of the snaps if they can.
Hell, no flaws last night from Bolton. I didn't see. I mean, he looked good in pass coverage to me. I also want to give a shout out to Wanye Morris. I want to give I know he got beat a couple times. That's to be expected. Like, did you think he was going to be, Trent Williams out there? There were 2 plays in the first half that I thought he got beat on. And I watched him the very next snap dominate his guy. It wasn't like, okay, I'm nervous. How am I going to get beat back to back? He pancaked the bleep out of him afterwards. I'm like, okay, he's letting that one play go. It's like a closer in baseball. You let that go, next pitch, next rep, and Wanye won those 2 reps right after getting beaten. So I was impressed by him bouncing back. I thought overall Wanye did a very nice job. I have no idea what PFF's going to say. I don't know what the majority of people are going to say, but I watched him the majority of that game, and I thought Wanye did a really nice job.
I don't want to – I agree with you. I totally agree with you. I don't want to dismiss what Wanya Morris did. I'm just curious what Kingsley would have looked like against the defense that isn't the Ravens or the Bengals with Trey Hendrickson out there. I think that was a game and a matchup where a left tackle would, in theory, look better than they did the week before. But he still went out and did his job. It doesn't mean that he was going to go out there and play as well as he did. You can still not be good. I mean, even if you're going up against inferior competition.
It's like the Royals going up against Mason Black and getting just...
and rope.
Sorry.
Hitting 0 ropes over the weekend. You still have to go out there and do your job. So credit to Wanya Morris for going and doing that. What did you think of Chris Collinsworth's little anecdote that saying that Wanya Morris starting, and this was kind of the plan until he got injured, and now that everybody's healthy, Wanya Morris is back to being where the Chiefs probably thought he was going to be anyway and starting. Look, I don't know if that's what the Chiefs fed Chris Collinsworth.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the Chiefs trying to spin it in a certain way. But if that was the case, then the Chiefs wouldn't have needed to play and Andy Reid and Andy Heck and Matt Nagy the cloak and dagger all week of, well, we're not sure who's going to start. You know, we're just going to. If it was Wanya Morris is now healthy, he's going to start.
Yeah.
If that was truly the case. I don't believe that for a second, that Wanya Morris and this battle with Kingsley was going to win, was going to be the starter until he hurt his knee. And Collinsworth said, what, in the third preseason game or whatever it was, whatever preseason game? I mean, at that point, Kingsley was already starting.
Yeah.
He was already the number one left tackle. So whether Collinsworth just assumed that was the case and presented that in his own connecting of the dots, or if he was told that in one of the meetings,
potentially.
I don't buy it for a second. I think that could be a spin. It could be saving face. It could be trying not to, make it look like Kingsley got pulled for being ineffective. But that was not the that was not the plan.
No.
Was for Wanya to start at left tackle, and then he got injured, and so they said, okay, well, we're going to have to go with Kingsley.
Because he had lost the left tackle battle at that point already.
Yeah.
Again, this was why I wanted Wanya to start week one.
Mm-hmm.
I just think that you know what you have in him a little more. I think, again, rookie left tackles. I think Kingsley is the better left tackle overall for the future. But this season, especially early on, give me the guy who's at least gone up against NFL competition, because I've said it once, I'll say it again, tackle, to me, is the hardest transition from college to the NFL. Quarterback, yes, but outside of quarterback, it's tackle. And I think you're seeing it with Kingsley, and it's why Wanya early on last year, his first couple games, he got beat.
Mm-hmm.
I think he improved. The negatives get washed out while the positives become more of the consistency, and that's what we saw, I think, last night.
And we'll find out next week if Bosa's healthy. If Bosa's healthy. Isn't that every week when people ask if Joey Bosa's going to be healthy?
Just the Chargers.
But Khalil Mack is healthy, so we'll see if Joey Bosa's healthy. And if he is, if both those guys are out there and healthy, then, yeah, it's going to be a real test for Wanya Morris. Then you're going to find out if it's Wanya, Kingsley, if it was the Atlanta Falcons, or if it was Wanya just playing much better football. We will find that out next week. Again, if Bosa's healthy. I don't know that he's going to be. He left the game. But Justin Herbert left the game early. And I would probably guess that he's not going to play this weekend.
Yeah.
Or if he does, he's going to be limited.
I was shocked he played
and then
last week at all.
And we'll keep track and we'll watch, but what's going to go on with Joe Alt and Ronnie Stanley? They both left the game early. You had Herbert, Stanley, Alt, and Bosa all leave the game.
Rashawn Slater.
Sorry, what did I say?
Ronnie Staley.
Ronnie Staley, yeah. Rashawn
Slater.
Well, I don't know. Maybe Ronnie Staley left the game for the Ravens earlier. I'd have to go back and check that too. I'm not sure. But Rashawn Slater, thank you. Slater, Alt, Bosa, Herbert, all left the game early. We'll find out what happens this week. 913-912-4810, 913-3810810. Let's sneak in a phone call before we go to break and taking your phone calls up until about 11:40 or so. Rodney leads us off here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Rodney, go right ahead. What's on your mind, sir?
Hey, Jason. I want to thank you for taking my call, and I want to beat you to the punch and say it for you. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear no one complaining about the referees for the rest of the season. They call what they see in front of them. If it's a holding, they call what they see. And there are plenty of bad calls on both sides. I'm tired of people complaining about the referees. So let's give it a break. Let's really calm down about it. But also, I think Andy Reid is really showing how he developed rookies. And one of his teachers, especially with Xavier Worthy, I think they have not taught him is improvise. He saw zone, so he stopped. When Mahomes said no, look at the situation. So the improvisation is not him. I think Worthy is stuck on doing what he is told instead of, hey, I got to make a play regardless what it's called. I got to make a play, and I think that's the transition that he's going to learn. I think proof of that is looking at Rashid Rice compared to what he did last year to now. So I've heard a lot of people complain about, well, why Worthy ain't getting that. Mm-hmm. Well, first of all, everyone saw what he did to Baltimore, and Baltimore was supposed to have this A1 defense, and they let this guy outrun them. Atlanta was not letting that happen. Atlanta was not letting that happen whatsoever. And Travis Kelce is going to be double covered regardless. So, my thing about it is, I think Patrick Mahomes is trying to get used to this now offense. An offense, I think, once he gets used to it, it's open season. Because like he said, and he mentioned it, I haven't thought about it, because he said, we got these new pieces that I'm trying to get used to. Mm-hmm. I still don't think Mahomes is used to Xavier Worthy's speed. I think he got to that point a whole lot faster than he did, to the point that he had to stop. So trying to make him now have to turn into a defender to prevent an interception. I think Mahomes is trying to adjust to Worthy's speed and whatnot, because you can tell it's off. I think if Andy Reid switched Worthy and Rice, let Worthy run some of the underneath stuff, more of the quick slants and in and out routes to get the timing right. So, then that would give Worthy that confidence instead of giving him that gadget player rookie role to get going. And also, I think you're right when it comes to Wanye. And I wrote about it, and I said the defensive ends for Atlanta is not Trey Henderson. Is not in here. I'm sorry, they are not Pro Bowl level guys. They are older guys who had their time. They're just there for the moment. They're not guys who are looking to get paid as a top 10. They are not top 10 pass rushers. So I would have wished they had Kingsley in there to have a bounce back game. But to me, I would think what Collinsworth said was disingenuous, because now you just put Andy Reid on the spot. Now he has to choose to either, let me save face for a PR moment, but if I do that, I'm going to shatter my rookie tackle confidence. Pure point blank, I'm about to shatter it. Or do I protect his confidence and really go against PR right now? So I really think Collinsworth just made something up, because I think that was nowhere near what was going on to make up something like that, thinking he's trying to save face. Really put Andy Reid in a very bad position, especially thinking of how the media is in Kansas City. Tyler Lebo's going to get to the bottom of it. He's going to shot drop now. He's going to get to the bottom of it. And I think Collinsworth's going to get an email from Andy Reid like, thanks a lot. I wanted to hear your thoughts on
Rodney, thank you for the phone call, man, as always, brother. 913-388.
Thanks for the cut as well.
Hell yeah.
That's great.
Lebo's going to get to the bottom of that.
I will say Judon, though, has 28 sacks in 28 sacks in 2 years, from 21 and 22. Last year in 23, he only played 4 games. Had 4 sacks in 4 games. Mm-hmm. Matthew Judon is no slouch. I am with you. It's not Trey Hendrickson, but Matthew Judon is almost perpetually underrated.
With Wanye and Kingsley, I'm going to guess that Wanye is going to be the starter this weekend against the Chargers, because I don't think the Chiefs want to make another move unless it's the final one they're making this year.
Yeah.
So if Kingsley is starting, then he's going to be the starter the rest of the year, including games when he might struggle. If they have to put in Wanye, Kingsley goes back to be – I don't think they want this to be a revolving door. So what I would expect is Wanye Morris to be the starter until they feel like Kingsley has worked enough and is in a position of maybe where they thought he was going to be before the season, or gets to a point of the deficiencies they saw to where they feel like those are better, and then they can put him back in the starting lineup. I don't think Kingsley starts this week, and then, maybe it's Wanye or Kingsley against the Saints, and then you go into the bye week, and who's going to be starting coming out of that bye week against the 49ers, who's going to be starting then. I don't think it's going to be that. I think if they make another move, that's the move for the season. That's the guy.
I'm with you, but I also don't think Andy's going to say that.
Oh, I don't think Andy's going to. No, Andy's not going to say that.
I think Andy's going to say, who's the starting left tackle next week, Andy? No, we're going to see.
I don't think Andy's going to say that, but I don't think they want to get into a revolving door where they're going back and forth as to who's the starting left tackle. They want a starting left tackle. They thought it was going to be Kingsley. They put him in there. He struggled in game 2. Whatever it was, technique, assignment, confidence. They had to pull him out, and they now going with Wanya. Until they feel like Kingsley is ready to go, it's going to be Wanya. And when Kingsley is ready to go, I think if they make that move, that'll be the move for the rest of the season. I want to come back and talk about Xavier Worthy and whether we get into the refs or not. We avoided it here this first segment. But I definitely want to talk about Xavier Worthy because it's interesting what's happening with this Chiefs offense, why it's happening, and the way that teams are approaching them, but also maybe the way the Chiefs are trying to use Worthy. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back, continue rolling. 913-381-0810. Continue taking your phone calls. We'll get into some text. 913-912-4810. More Zone next. About 11:40 or so, we'll talk with Josh Kaiser at that point. One Royal Way podcast. Field Yates coming up at noon. Andy Reid about noon 30. And then Mick Schaefer in the 1 o'clock hour. 913-381-0810. Jim, next up on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jim, go right ahead. What is on your mind, sir?
Hey, guys. Thanks for taking my call.
Absolutely.
Hey, so I love the fact that the Chiefs are pulling out these close games, but the fact is we're playing with fire. And it all goes back to being able to convert in the red zone. And typically it's in the red zone with short distances, which also shows itself at midfield when it's 3rd and 1. As long as we have trouble scoring in the red zone and converting on 3rd and short, we're going to be kicking field goals instead of touchdowns, and that's going to put us in close games, and it's going to burn us at some point.
Jim, I appreciate the phone call. Let's talk about that. 913-381-0810 is the phone number. Let's talk about that. And then I want to get into what Rodney brought up with Xavier Worthy and the refs. I want to get to this point first, and then we'll get into Xavier Worthy a little bit more because I think that might be a bigger one. This could also be a bigger conversation, too, as the season progresses. But red zone issues, it's been a problem for the Chiefs. I don't know how that relates to the rest of the league so far this year. Scoring is down, so I'm assuming red zone conversions are also down.
You don't know who is the best red zone scoring percentage on touchdowns only in the NFL?
Carolina.
Cleveland.
Oh.
Because they don't get the red zone.
That's why I was going to go with Carolina, because they don't score, they don't get in the red zone, and then all of a sudden they went out and scored 36 points this weekend. So I thought maybe, Carolina's like 3 for 4. Yeah, I was guessing a team that hasn't scored a lot of points, because if we're just talking about red zone percentage and converting red zone opportunities to touchdowns, if you're not there very often.
I do have it if you want the number.
Yeah, please.
You want to take a guess at all?
This year?
This year, when they get in the red zone, touchdown percentage only.
Oh, touchdown percentage only, I would say 34%.
44.44, which is 20.
Better than I thought. I thought it was like 1 out of every 3, roughly.
It's 21st in the NFL. They're tied with Atlanta. So.
Well, no, that's good to know. It's 21st. It's in the bottom third.
Yeah.
So, it's it has been an issue, and the short distances as well. Yeah, it is really interesting that the Chiefs have a power run game in Isaiah Pacheco, Carson Steele, and from the 20 to the 20, in non-short yardage situations, maybe first down, when they run it up the middle, it seems like there's power, and they're just punching you right in the mouth. And then on 3rd and short, as Jim talked about, or 1st and goal from the 3, 2nd and goal, 3rd and goal, and we saw it against the Bengals last week in the decision that Andy Reid made to kick the field goal. That those are the spots where the physicality does not shine through. It doesn't show up on the broadcast in these games where they are just punching you in the mouth because they've got these 3 all-pro players in the middle of the line, and they've got a Carson Steele or an Isaiah Pacheco.
Sure.
What happens from the 20 to the 20 when they're not in short yardage situations of the power game is not then matched by when the other team thinks you're going to run it, and they can also stack the box, stack the line of scrimmage, and you have to then be more physical than that person and win. They aren't doing that very often, and I think it's also because they're an offensive line that's built to pass block, for the most part.
And also, I don't disagree there, but also, why don't they just spread it out? Like, this is not what you're built around.
I don't disagree.
Why don't you just run your normal sets, and you can run out of it, but then you can't stack the box. Because now you're going to have a Rashee Rice one-on-one, a Travis Kelce potentially one-on-one. Okay, stack the box. Now we have an ability to pass the ball on 3rd and 1, 2nd and 1, but you're automatically bringing in Leo Chenal and 3 running backs. Well, they're not scared of that. Travis ain't even on the field. Like, am I taking crazy pills?
You are, but that has nothing to do with this.
I agreed. Like, just spread it out.
Yeah, and look, I loved that Atlanta went in the formation they did and handed it off to Bijan Robinson. I love that because the Chiefs knew what they were doing, and the Chiefs had the advantage there because they had backup offensive linemen in for Atlanta, and the Chiefs' run defense is actually pretty damn good. What I didn't want them to do was to fake the handoff get one-on-one with Drake London and throw a little high pass that London can reach up and get since he's 7 foot tall against whatever defender he was going up against, because he did it against Watson. He did it against Justin Reed. It didn't matter what defender that was there. Shamari Connor, just throw him the ball. He's going to box you out or just go up and get it. I didn't want them to do that. In a strange twist of fate, I wanted them to give the ball to Bijan Robinson.
Agreed.
Not throw it to Drake London.
Yes.
How is that? On short yardage situation, please give the ball to one of the most dynamic players in the NFL instead of throwing it to a guy who has largely been not living up to expectations of a top 10 pick in Drake London. Please don't throw it to that guy.
So how do you think opposing – this is how Chiefs fans feel.
Right.
Give the ball to Bijan. How do you think other teams feel when they say,
Agreed.
wait, you're going to take the ball out of Mahomes' hands, Rice and Kelsey have no chance of making a play, and you're going to give it to either Pacheco or an undrafted running back? Okay, have fun.
Let's play clip number 5 from Patrick Mahomes. He's weighing in here talking about the defense is taking Travis Kelsey away, but I think this leads into the Xavier Worthy conversation too. So let's hear from Patrick Mahomes. He was asked about Kelsey, and this is Patrick Mahomes' assessment of what he's seen through 3 weeks in the way defenses are guarding number 87. I think this leads into Xavier Worthy as well, because my assessment so far is the way that defenses have approached this Chiefs offense, and it's why you saw a couple of really long drives for the Chiefs resulting in 7 points, because that long drive in the first drive of the game, you throw an interception. But that's also the part of when they make you drive the field and you start at the 13-yard line. It's a little more difficult to drive the length of the field without having a mistake along the way. But I think, number one, teams are looking at it and saying, keep number 87 in check. First and foremost, let's do that. Second, if that means we give up the run game, then that's okay, because they don't have a home run hitting running back. They have a good running back, but they don't have a 40, 45, 50-yard Saquon Barkley 63 yards for the win for Philly against Atlanta. Devon Achane, 80 yards, boom, busts it, gone. They don't have that guy. They may get us with some 6 or 7 yard punches, but over the course of the game, over the course of this drive, are they going to do that consistently without making a mistake along the way? So those two things. The third I think they are doing is we are going to make sure we're playing over the top so that Xavier Worthy does not have a big long pass play. He's not going to be somebody that beats us, and we're not going to give up a huge touchdown in one play for 80 yards. Not going to happen. So we're playing too deep. We're keeping things in front of us. We're shading Travis Kelsey. We're giving up the run, and we'll give Rashee Rice everything underneath. Because, again, when we rally to him, he'll break some tackles. He's number 1 in the NFL in yards after catch. Hell, he's number 2 in the NFL in yards receiving in general, number 1 in receptions. But it's not going to be a 40 or 50-yard gain. It might be 7 or 8. But we're going to make them drive the length of the field. And it is curious to me, and the Chiefs know more than I, obviously, when it comes to Xavier Worthy and how they're using him and what they think he can do. But I am really surprised at the conversation around Xavier Worthy that he is not just a fast guy that plays wide receiver. He's a wide receiver who plays fast. Them talking about his route running ability, Patrick Mahomes talking about his ball tracking ability, all of these things that were compliments about things that Xavier Worthy can do, which we talked about, and I agree with. He can do. He's a really good route runner. It's underrated because of how fast he is. He's a good tracker of the football. It's underrated because of how fast he is. But yet the way they've used Xavier Worthy so far is these gimmicks and gadgets and quick throws and handoff and end around, and let's bring him in the motion and jet motion, and then we'll throw it to him going the other way. A little pass here. That's the only way they've used him so far. When on I think it was the Juju Smith-Schuster touchdown, it resulted in a touchdown, so great. But Xavier Worthy ran a route that was down the field, looked like it was a post, stopped, cut, went back outside, and it almost looked like the cornerback was in a spin cycle. He had him. He beat him on just a brilliant run route. Why don't we see more of that? And maybe that's defenses are doing so, but that wasn't the defense saying, we're going to make sure Xavier Worthy doesn't just run right down the field because he just runs fast and straight. I'm really surprised that we haven't seen him just simply, hey, here's a route to go and run and go and win, that when they've got him the ball, it's been sort of gadgety so far. It's not the way I thought they would use him. I think they're using him in certain ways to open up Rashee Rice underneath, which is perfectly fine because that's what's working right now. But I really thought we'd see more of the just general, quote, wide receiver play from Xavier Worthy rather than here's a gadget and one more thing for a little toy for Andy Reid to use. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll continue rolling, get back into your phone calls, some texts as well, 913-381-810. More Zone next. WHB. All right, we continue talking about some Chiefs in the next hour. Jerry, we'll get to your phone call right after the break. Holding the longest, 913-381-810. First in, first on. Taking your phone calls to 1140. Also going to hear a little bit more from Patrick Mahomes, Nick Bolton, Carson Steele. Patrick Mahomes made a funny comment last night. I audibly laughed. I wrote it in my diary. Mahomes made a joke. Hear from that. Josh Kaiser coming up at 11:40. Field Yates coming up at noon. ESPN NFL Insider. We'll hear from Andy Reid, his Monday press conference coming up at 12:30. And then Mick Schaefer will join us at 1 o'clock and see who else he can jinx this week. Learn funniest best as well. More Zone next. Or it said Tershawn Tank Wharton.
Turk and Tank.
Turk and Tank, remember?
I mean,
Turk McBride, baby. Or Tank McBride. Was it Tank? Tank McBride? It was
well, now there's Trey McBride.
Yeah,
See,
well,
there's a lot of confusion going on. I get it.
Yeah, Turk and Tank. Turk Wharton was, man, he's been so good and got the pressures. And by the way, Mike Pennell. Was it Mike? No, it was Wharton. Mike Pennell got the sack earlier in the game on Cousins. He reached his arm out and Cousins fell over his arm. That's a sack, baby. That's what that is. That goes down in the record books, baby.
He was like triple teamed, too. It was incredible.
Good for him.
On his ass.
Good for him.
Sticks his hand out.
And knocks down the ever-elusive Kirk Cousins. Typically, you don't see Kirk Cousins go down that easy. You know, he's a guy that's really he felt like a sack of potatoes because somebody touched his leg. Just like it's like he was carrying a bunch of stuff around the house and was barely keeping his balance, and he stepped on a kid's toy and just fell.
Stepped on a Lego.
It's like he's Bo Nix, you know?
All right, 913-381-0810. Jerry's been waiting patiently. Jerry, welcome into the show. Go right ahead, sir. What's on your mind?
Good morning, Mr. Anderson. I know we've all been spoiled watching how great Mahomes is, but the first 3 games he doesn't look like himself. He looks like he's trying to place the ball instead of like rip it like he normally does. I know he's great, but man, it looks like something's off. What do you guys think?
I thought the same thing. I've seen the same thing. He hasn't been all that accurate. I wrote it down in my notes after the first play of the game that so it was that first play when the Chiefs have run this play before on the first play of the game, and it also did not work. And I think it was a offensive line. Somebody got blown up in that offensive line. There was going to be somebody running wide open. But on that first play, Rashee Rice would have had a huge gain. I mean, he might have broken it. I got to see the all-22 because the guy that was in front of him fell. And I think, if my number counting is correct, there was only one other guy back there that was out of the screen that was covering Xavier Worthy.
A 35-plus gain, easy.
Yeah, and Mahomes just underthrew him. And I wrote down, I said, a miss by Mahomes, that's a bad start because that was just simply an inaccurate pass to Rashee Rice on an easy throw that they've practiced and practiced for this to start off so many times, those scripted plays. So, Jerry, I don't think you're wrong. I've seen the same thing.
But he's looked so good, like, Superman. But whenever he actually looks like a regular quarterback, everybody's like, man, what's wrong with him? Don't get me wrong. Happy to have him, but goodness gracious, he doesn't look like himself.
Yeah. Jerry, I appreciate the phone call, man. 913-381-0810. It is right. When he looks human, you're like, who is this guy? Where's the cape?
It's a great call, though, Jerry. I want to stick with that for 1 second here because it wasn't just that first play of the game.
No. It was the first drive.
First drive, first quarter.
Yeah.
I mean, really the whole game. But first quarter specifically, he looked timid. Everything was low. Mm-hmm. It was behind receivers. I mean, hell, even later in the game, Rashee Rice would have had an easy first down. Yeah. He should have probably still caught the ball. It was a group effort to fail that one, but a better throw from Mahomes doesn't even make that a conversation.
Well, same thing with 3rd and 6 on the first drive. Rashee Rice was wide open, and it was a bad pass, and Rashee Rice had to go down and get it,
yes,
and then rolled it to the first down.
He was throwing everything low or short. I mean, Xavier Worthy in the end zone, that was behind him. He had to come back and knock that ball out, which Andy Reid, there you go. Look, you learned. Xavier, no one's catching that ball. Yep. If you're not catching it, no one is. Mm-hmm. But, yeah, I don't know what's going on with Mahomes. I couldn't tell you. But he does look timid. Again, it looks like someone who's trying not to make a mistake, and then he tried to open one up, and it was picked off by Justin Simmons. That was one where he tried to use one of those little touch passes, which we're used to seeing Mahomes just drop in the bucket. And, again, it was actually kind of underthrown yet again.
Well, and I think Justin Simmons fooled everybody on that play because both the defenders in the area, they overloaded with Kelsey and Gray.
Yeah.
Kelsey stopped short. Both defenders came down for Kelsey and left Noah Gray. When Mahomes threw the ball, I tweeted about this. Look at the bottom of the screen. When Mahomes throws the ball, Kelsey raises his hand in the air. Touchdown. Touchdown. Because he saw the same thing Mahomes did, that both the guys reacted to Kelsey and left Gray. Only problem was Simmons was stalking, ready to go over there and make the interception. And Mahomes and Kelsey saw it the same way. Simmons just made an amazing play, but it was also a bad throw. It was a bad throw. I mean, you can't make that throw. It's 2nd down and 8. You've got 3 points on the board already. You'd like to have 7, certainly, but it was a rough drive, and I think it's been rough so far. Here's Patrick Mahomes after the game was over. It's clip number 4, weighing in on the assessment of himself and needing to play much better football.
Yeah, I mean, I think just footwork stuff. I got to get my base right. I think I'm trusting my arm too much in some of those throws. Even the first throw of the game, I just kind of flick it and kind of off balance and don't hit Rasheed going down the seam there. So it's just I got to get back to my fundamentals, and then that's stuff that I go through sometimes, not usually early in the season like this, but luckily for me, I'm not playing my best football, and we're still getting wins. So I got to get better to make the offense better.
And that's the takeaway. He's got 5 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, a quarterback rating of 89, and they're 3-0. But there was it was also the throw in the first drive to Juju on 1st down and 10 after the Rashee Rice 17-yard catch. It's 1st down and 10, and he stepped up in the pocket, and he was almost like half running, and then threw it to Juju, and it just came off awkwardly, and he was wide open, or at least he was open. It would have been a completion. Didn't happen. They ended up getting the 1st down there on that set of downs. It took the 4th down and 1 Rashee Rice run, but they ended up getting the 1st down and continue to drive the ball. He hasn't been great. There's been some miscommunication. Kelsey should catch the ball on 3rd down and 2. It was a great play by Bates, but Kelsey's so good at catching and tucking it away. That was one to where it looked like Kelsey was catching it and then trying to spin back away from the defender to get away while also sort of tucking it away at the same time. But Kelsey's usually pretty darn good at catching and tucking that thing away. But a great play by Bates. I'll give more credit to Jesse Bates than I will, hey, that's criticism of Kelsey. Kelsey will tell you it's his fault, but I'll credit a really, really good safety. And the next 3rd down and 2, I don't know what happened with Xavier Worthy and Rashee Rice and Patrick Mahomes. But if Xavier Worthy keeps running, he might still be running.
Yeah.
Because you've got one guy behind him guarding Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy coming underneath, and then one guy back there that's in the middle of the field. It would have been a huge gain regardless. It would have been a 1st down. But he just slowed down and stopped for some reason. And you know it was Worthy because they showed the clip on the sideline where Mahomes and, was it Nagy or somebody, was there looking at the tablet and going through and showing Worthy, and then Worthy was pointing it out, and they're talking to him specifically like it was a miscommunication, but that was a miss by Xavier Worthy. I'll take my chances that Mahomes threw it to where the receiver was supposed to be rather than the receiver was doing what he was doing, and Mahomes just, whoops, my bad.
Again, going to what we've seen, though, from Mahomes in totality this season, QBR, which adjusts for defenses faced.
And running the football accounts for QBR as well.
Everything's in QBR right here.
Rating does not account for running the football, picking up 1st downs with his legs.
And he's been pretty efficient with running the football. Where do you think Mahomes is?
In QBR?
1 of 31. For some reason, only 31 on here.
Well, probably, you got to qualify. So if that's Malik Willis and Jordan Love or something.
There you go. You nailed
those
it.
Those guys are equaling or canceling each
Those
other
are the
out,
exact
like
2
that.
guys because it's Green Bay's the only one not on this list. So astute observation, Jason.
Thanks. I would QBR. I don't know, man. I'd say he's in 11th place.
18. Behind Jacoby Brissett, Bo Nix, Daniel Jones.
Well, there you go, Bo Nix.
Just ahead of well, maybe Sean Payton was right. Just ahead of Anthony Richardson and Kirk Cousins. Again, Mahomes is going to figure it out.
Yes.
The Chiefs are 3-0.
Yes.
He's right. This is a great spot to be where you are struggling, and the Chiefs are still 3-0 with maybe their toughest stretch of football, at least opponent-wise, behind them. But it's not just the eye test. The analytics and the underlying numbers all go to show that Mahomes has struggled. It's not just the fact that we're used to seeing greatness and then he's looked merely good. He's looked average.
Let's say, this team, again, we started off talking about the fact that this team is 3-0 while they haven't played well. How many teams would be 3-0 if your number one offseason signing wide receiver hasn't played it down, and is going to miss the regular season. Your running back that is a difference maker, breaks his leg in week number 2. You've already switched out left tackles. Your stud tight end has 69 yards receiving. Your defense loses L'Jarius Sneed last year. Searching for a cornerback too. And your quarterback is ranked 18th in QBR and near the bottom in quarterback rating and has 5 touchdowns and 4 interceptions in 3 weeks. Who's 3-0?
The Vikings.
By the way, no. Against the Ravens, the Bengals, and at the team picked to win the NFC South.
Okay.
Atlanta.
The one thing, I'm only being slightly facetious here.
Right.
But the Vikings, who are 3-0 while playing the 49ers, who did they beat last night? They've beaten the Texans.
Oh yeah, they dominated the Texans.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
that's
again,
pretty impressive.
There and this is Sam Darnold has been awesome. It's not Sam Darnold is 5 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. You know what I'm saying? Like Mahomes has struggled.
Yeah.
They've switched out their left tackle. Their running back is gone for a while. Their number 1 receiver that I think a decent amount of the offense might have been built with him out there on the field would be a difference maker because it wouldn't just be Rashee Rice they're throwing the ball to underneath. You'd have Hollywood Brown in the game as well. That they've found a way to be 3-0. Will they continue to win these one-score games close at the end? They're not going to win every single one of them. They're not. You need to win some games. You need to put some other teams away and win some of those games. 913-810-810. Rodney brought up in the previous hour, we talked about the offensive line. We talked about Xavier Worthy that he brought up. We didn't discuss much of the refs that he brought up. This takes me back to the 49ers Super Bowl in Miami. And the assessment, the conversation that if Jimmy G hits Emmanuel Sanders, if he does not overthrow Emmanuel Sanders, the 49ers win that Super Bowl. Because it's, well, you got Jimmy G making a good pass from losing that one. You got a holding call. The Eagles, you would have lost that one, even though they would have kicked the field goal, been up by 3, and had, a chance to stop the Eagles. Well, you got the 49ers. Got lucky in that one. There's Ravens turnovers in the end zone. You got Bills missing a field goal. The only reason you guys won that one. It goes back to the 49ers Super Bowl in that if Jimmy G hits Emmanuel Sanders, somehow with 1:40 to go, the game is over?
Yeah, that's how the rules are. They just call it
They
that
had
you're
just
not allowed to get the
scored.
ball back.
They had just scored their back-to-back touchdowns. They had just taken back-to-back touchdowns to be up 24-20, but somehow the game is over with 1.5 minutes and multiple timeouts left, that the Chiefs would be down by 3 at that point?
It's not like the Chiefs have ever came back or done anything in 13 seconds. It's not like they've
But
only
that was
needed
even
13.
before 13 seconds.
I know.
But even that year was the comeback against the Texans and the Titans, in the divisional round and the AFC Championship. They were down by 24 and 10
It's
in those 2
jealousy.
games. So you go back to that, it's like, okay, the game is over. It was pass interference. It was pass interference on Brian Cook. It should have been first and goal at the 1-yard line. Chiefs up by 5 with 4 minutes to go. Atlanta first and goal at the 1. The game is over. According to dumbasses that apparently don't watch much football or don't have a history of who we're talking about. It's the Chiefs. We're not talking about Joe Burrow and his inability to close out games. We're talking about one of the greatest closers in NFL history, that when you have to have it, he gets it way more times than not, especially in the playoffs. So even if the Chiefs give up a touchdown, even if they give up the 2-point conversion, and they're down 25-22 at that point, the Chiefs would have 3 minutes. Let's say it takes 4 downs for them to score the touchdown. They'd have 2.5 minutes and 2 timeouts to go and kick a field goal to tie it or drive the length of the field and score a touchdown.
The missed call combined with them getting walked down the field by calls actually provided a better outcome for them because there was less time for the Chiefs to come back and tie it after the fact.
Yeah, if they would have scored a touchdown there on that last drive, it would have been way more detrimental to the Chiefs than if they would have scored a touchdown and got the pass interference call and 1st and goal at the 1, and the Chiefs get the ball back with 3 minutes to play, multiple timeouts, down by at worst 3.
Yeah.
At worst 3, you'd be down by. And you get the ball at the 30. How many yards do you need for Butker? I mean, this is
30. No, seriously, 30 at most.
Right. And so this is the absurdity of well, if only there was evidence that the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes would be able to pull out a close game. If only there was something there. But that wasn't the last call of the game. And to act like that's what cost you the game is absurd because the Chiefs had an absurd and terrible pass interference call not called in the Green Bay Packers game last year, but that's not the reason they lost, was because that call. And that call was on the final drive for the Chiefs. There wasn't anything the Chiefs could do after that.
It's jealousy, it's hatred, it's an inability to accept what the Chiefs are. And again, that's what it comes down to because they just automatically assume, one, that the Falcons would score a touchdown.
Right, yeah.
Which the
Chiefs would
Chiefs
not
have stonewalled them all game. And again, you can say, sure, they score. Okay, fine.
Now get the 2-point
Now they had to
conversion.
get the 2-point conversion, which you're assuming that. And then you're assuming the Chiefs would do literally nothing if they had the ball in their hands.
Yep.
It's just it's such a microcosm of, at that point, everything would have to go the Falcons' way.
Yeah.
Everything would have to go right, which at that point in the game, they're without their two of their starting offensive linemen. They were struggling to move the football. In what world do they win that game even if they do take the lead? I would have thrown money on the Chiefs if they would have taken the lead. I did in that game.
Oh, the
I
Chiefs.
threw the second the second the Falcons scored and went up 7-0. What did I do? I put money on the Chiefs.
Dude, so did
They
I.
went to plus 130.
I got them at plus 120 when they scored. They were up 7-0, and then the penalty. The Chiefs were starting their first drive from the 13-yard line.
Yes.
Is when it was at the highest that you could get the Chiefs money line.
It was
I got it at plus 120.
I got
so
plus 130. I threw
I
money
did the
on
same.
it.
I'm like, boom, click, thank you.
Like if the Falcons would have scored, I would have doubled down.
Yeah. Somehow there are people out there that have both of these opinions in their mind at the same time. Completely conflicting ideologies, but they are holding them as if they are both the truth. 1, NFL officials are god-awful at their job. 2, NFL officials are so organized and covert that they have created this conspiracy to gift the Chiefs calls late in games for them to win. There are living human beings out there that believe both of those things to be true. They both can't be true. If the first one's true, the second one can't be. If the second one's true, the first one can't be. They cannot be god-awful at their job and then somehow so good at their job and so covert and organized that they have created this, the Chiefs must win, so we will make calls in certain areas and make it look like we can get away with this certain thing, and only when it benefits the Chiefs at max point, and then have makeup calls knowing that the Chiefs would get a stop on 4th down and 1. The NFL refs are that good, while also being one of the worst collection of officials in professional sports. There are people that believe both.
It blows my mind, and even the one on Kyle Pitts with Cook, that was DPI.
Yeah, it was.
But
should have been called.
I thought even in live time, it was bang bang. Mm-hmm. Like I was like, I know he was face guard and he wasn't turned around, but at first I go, I don't think he hit him until the ball actually hit Pitts' hands. I was wrong.
Yeah, he was.
But it was tough to see live action. Mm-hmm. Also, if Kirk Cousins throws the ball a little higher, we're not having that conversation. Yeah. That's a touchdown either way. It's hard.
Yeah.
Refs blow calls every single game. There are calls they shouldn't make, and there are no calls they don't make. There are so many flags. Do people want to flag on every single play? I, for one, enjoy letting the players
they did in
decide the game. But
Dolphins and Seahawks game, there was a flag on every single play. So I'm pretty sure there was a flag on every single play. They legit. They were keeping track. I think there was 6 of 7 plays. There was a penalty. There was a 7-play stretch in the Seahawks-Dolphins game.
Did they
where
throw a
6
flag on the independent neurological consultant for the Dolphins yet? Have they done that?
I have no idea. No.
I'm waiting for that
They
one.
already fired that one
but
earlier
you're
last
right,
year after the Bills game. That guy after the Bills game, and then Tua got concussed against the Bengals on Thursday Night Football. Oh no, I was just getting ready to go to the phones. He hung up. Maybe he was going to talk about the refs. I don't know. 913-3810810 is the phone number. 913-3810810 to join us to be a part of the show, part of the conversation. I tweeted both those things out. Like, the game's not over at that point, so stop. And then there were Dylan. It's a great point. I hadn't thought about that. I love that you brought that up. That it is more advantageous for the Falcons to be to have penalties called that have 3 first downs on that final drive. If there was a drive they were wanting to score on, it would be that one.
Yeah.
And not the one with 4 minutes to go.
If you go back to that drive, it could not have been a more perfect 2-minute setup for Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it was literally like he had, 3 timeouts. We had thrown an incomplete pass on 3rd down.
Yes, yeah.
And then also they had the 2-minute warning.
Yep. And they had roughly a setup like the week before when they drove the field at 70 yards and scored against the Eagles and won that game. A touchdown to Drake London. And this would have been, I don't know how many yards it would have been, but driving the length of field to score a touchdown. Because if they had scored, there was 50 seconds left? I don't remember how much time was left in the game. Maybe it was more than 50 seconds.
Oh, against the Eagles, you mean?
No, just this game last night.
Oh, last night.
No, we're talking about
I
the
can
Chiefs.
Pull it up the exact.
Yeah, so when they got that stop.
A minute 35.
Oh, there was a minute 35.
Well, even more than that.
That's right, because, no, there was
2:26.
There was a minute 56 left when Bijan Robinson was tackled at fourth and 1. So there was 56 seconds left on 4th and 1. So Mahomes took the snap at 51 seconds to take the knee on the final drive for the Falcons.
Yeah, they got the ball with 2:26.
Yeah, I know. I'm just talking about
okay, yeah.
when the Chiefs got the stop. Because if they pick up the first down there, they've got 12 yards to go and 50 seconds left, and the Chiefs have 1 timeout remaining. You want to score. You don't want to score too early, that whole thing, but you got to score. The Chiefs would have been in a pretty tough situation if they scored a touchdown there. Now, it's not one of those to where the Chiefs are up by 2, so you let them score a touchdown so you can get the ball back because they actually need a touchdown to beat you, so you still have 12 yards to cover. 22, really? But they got to go 12 more yards? Yeah, it would have been a tough situation for the Chiefs. I'm not saying they don't get it done, but the Chiefs have 1 more timeout left. Let's say it takes 3 more plays for the Falcons to score, and they score a touchdown with 20 seconds left, and then extra point or a 2-point conversion. Now you're down 3, and then they kick off. I'd kick off short if I was them. So you make the Chiefs bring it back to the 30, but also take 5 seconds off the clock just to get to where it would get anyway. Make sure you're covering well.
You'd have 1 timeout, and you'd have a
You'd
couple
have no
plays.
timeouts at that point because the Chiefs
would have to use it.
They would have used their timeout
you'd
on
have
the previous. To
somehow
try
get 30-ish yards, 25 to 30 yards to set up a 55-plus yard field goal, and somehow also
with
get
no
out of bounds.
timeouts and like 15 seconds to go. Yeah, that would have been. It would have been pretty rough for that to happen. But it didn't happen because the Chiefs stepped up and made plays, which the Ravens didn't do, and the Bengals didn't do, and the Falcons didn't do. Let's bring in Chris, 913-3810810. Chris, go right ahead. What's on your mind, sir?
Good morning. Just in lieu of what you said about Chiefs just stepping up and making plays, like what I've noticed is that the margin of victory is razor thin with the parity in the league. And, like, you look at how wonky the NFL is, and you look at the teams that are doing good, and the 3-0 teams, the Vikings, this and that. Any team that's 3-0 could easily be 1-2, if not for a few plays. You know, the line of victory is that razor thin. But I think as long as we have a great quarterback, we have a great head coach over the course of the season, that's why we're 3-0. That's the difference. Even when we're not at our best, we're 3-0 because we have a great quarterback and a great coach. Just wondering your thoughts on that. Thank you.
Yeah, Chris, I appreciate it. Yeah, the parity in the NFL is great. It's such a week-to-week league. I mean, it is a week-to-week league that you don't really know what to expect from teams, and it's hard to take what has happened in the previous weeks and then fold that into what's going to happen in a specific individual game that next week. And that's what the NFL has created. And the Chiefs have a great head coach. They have a great quarterback that's not playing great right now. And they have a defense that has made plays when it's needed to make plays and got a win for them last night against the Falcons. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back, continue rolling more zone right after this. offense this year has been throw the ball short to Rashee Rice and let him run. Make a pretty strong argument that more detrimental loss to the offense could be Rashee Rice rather than Isaiah Pacheco. I'd make that argument because Rashee Rice is what's moving the football right now. And he has been awesome. Number 1 in receptions, number 2 in yards this year, behind Nico Collins. He's 50 yards behind Nico Collins. Nico with 388 and Rashee Rice with 288. He's number 1 in yards after catch, which is not a surprise at all, is Rashee Rice. The defense, 24 straight games without allowing 28 points, the defense. Last time the defense gave up at least 28 points in a game was the Super Bowl against the Eagles when they gave up 35. It's the last time they've given up 28 or more points. Super Bowl against the Eagles is 24 straight games now that they have gone without giving up 4 touchdowns worth of points. The game was over last night, and on NBC after the game was over, Patrick Mahomes made a really funny comment. Like, I laughed. I think a lot of people laughed. I wrote it in my diary that Patrick Mahomes told a funny joke today. Here's the joke that Patrick Mahomes told last night on NBC after the game was over. That guy, he's a riot. We're going to try to not have him every week. Oh, my goodness. The guy, he is great, man. I mean, it's the old rope-a-dope. Like, oh, we're not going to try to do these every single week, Chiefs fans. We're not going to do that for you. No. We're going to do it every single week, though. We are actually going to do this every single week, and just get used to it and make sure your pacemakers are good to go and your health is there in good tact because against the Chargers, I don't care who's playing. I'm expecting the same thing. It was a funny comment.
It doesn't matter.
It was a great comment. Funny comment. Stand-up comedian. That's what he is. It's hilarious.
Well, he may have been sitting down. So he's a sit-down
No,
comedian.
he was standing up.
Oh, was he actually?
Yeah, he was standing up right after the game was over. He's standing up right there. Nick Bolton was there. Rashee Rice was there. They all laughed along with him. Like, ha, this guy. He does not win blowouts. He said that already. He said it when they were last summer. Not this summer, but the summer before. When he said, you know, I make it interesting. You know, when they were playing the golf against Steph Curry and the
it's good
Splash
for
Brothers.
ratings.
Yeah. I guess it's not good for the heart, man. That's no doubt about that. We played that clip there coming back from break. Well, let's hear Patrick Mahomes talk about Rashee Rice and being that number 1 receiver. Let me ask you this: if you were a defense, he said, I'm sure defenses will start to adjust and worry about him a little bit more, which then would open up things for Travis. If you're a defense, would you adjust? Would you do something different if you're the Chargers or the Saints or anybody else moving forward than what the Ravens, Bengals, and Falcons have done? You can run the ball. We're going to take Travis Kelce away. You ain't hitting Xavier Worthy over the top with these big plays. And if you want to throw it underneath to Rashee Rice and let him run, that's fine. But you're going to go 13 or 14 plays to score a touchdown, and we're not going to adjust to that. This is how we're going to play football against you.
Yeah, I don't know how much I would adjust. I mean, 27, 26, and 22.
26 was 19. I mean, because of the defensive score.
You're right. So
now, if they just scoop and fall on the football, maybe the Chiefs get points there.
Sure.
So let's at least give them 22.
I'll give them 22.
Because Butker would make it. But yeah, it's gone backwards, in all 3 games. Or, excuse me, hadn't gone 27 to 19 to 22. But, it's been a struggle at times to score with these longer drives that it's taken.
You're just hoping that a drop happens, a fumble happens, an interception happens on a 14-play drive versus the explosive 5-play drives.
Yep.
So Yeah, I guess if you're the Chargers, I don't think I would
No,
play them any different.
I would not. I'd play them exactly like they've played them the first 3 weeks and hope that your offense plays a little bit better than what the other offenses have played like, and you stay in the game. But you're going to limit the possessions that way, and you're going to make them convert third downs. And the last 2 possessions for the Chiefs before the kneel down had 2 separate 3rd and 2s. The pass to Kelsey that was knocked away, and the miscommunication with Xavier Worthy. Both on 3rd and 2, both times they chose to pass the ball. Whether that's a no faith in the running game, or it's a, we're going to put the ball in Mahomes' hands on 3rd down and 2 to extend a drive to, play this 4-minute offense to kill the game. And it's 0 for 2 in those. They were 0 for 2 in drives that they had to clinch the game. They couldn't get the drive to clinch the game against the Ravens in week 1. They defense came through against the Bengals, but Chiefs were down by 2 points and had to punt it right back to Cincinnati. Defense got it right back to them, and then they went and kicked the field goal. But late game, sort of game clinching, hasn't been all that successful as of late. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. Whew. Speaking of hasn't been all that successful, we'll talk with Josh Kaiser. He's successful, One Royal Way podcast, but we'll talk some Royals baseball with him. And really, I just want to know, does he think they will win again in this calendar year? More Zone next. Continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Sterling Holmes, Dylan Michaels. Heading up until 2 o'clock, we'll talk with Field Yates today. We'll hear from Andy Reid. Talk with Mick Schaefer as well. We got Learn Funniest Best before the show is over. Right now, let's talk some Royals baseball here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Josh Kaiser, One Royal Way podcast. Josh, welcome into the show. How are you?
I'm not doing well. This is a very rough time for me. Do we have to talk? Can we just talk about, like, I don't know, literally anything else? Can we talk about Carson Steele's alligator?
Yeah, let's do it. You know, he was wearing a Chiefs hat. He was not wearing a Royals hat, so that was cool.
Yeah.
You know, it has smaller arms. Not sure that it would be able to score a run in a baseball game, although that's not much different than what the big league team is doing. So, it's green, and I'm green with envy of teams that have good offenses. You know, it's got a sharp bite. Which Blake Snell had yesterday on his breaking pitch, and the Royals couldn't get to. You know, and it's dangerous if you get close to them, like the Tigers are right now, apparently, or like the Royals' offense is not when the bat gets close to a baseball.
There it is.
We tried. We tried. At least I tried. Maybe I didn't really try that much there, but. Man, this is as frustrating of a week as I can remember because of what the Royals have done to put themselves in this position for us to 100%. Be as excited about it. But I can't remember a week like this in a long, long, long time. And I don't know that I ever remember a week like this, even because when they were winning in 13, 14, 15, 16, it wasn't to this degree to where they had 95, 96% chance to make the playoffs. And now they are a game up on a team that has the tiebreaker on them and tied with a team that's playing much better baseball than they are anyway and has 3 games left against the White Sox.
Yeah, we had the 7-game losing streak, a couple weeks ago, and we kind of shoot it away as in like, oh, these are tough teams that we're playing. You can't say that about, the Detroit Tigers, even though they are the hottest team in baseball. You can't say that about the lifeless San Francisco Giants. You can't say that anymore. This is a losing streak that is not only, like, baffable. There's no reason why it should be happening to a team that is still more than likely to make the playoffs. Yet here we are. We have to lie in the bed that they made. And much like Carson Steele's alligator, you're just kind of a prisoner to whoever is pitching to you at that time.
Yeah, you're getting owned by somebody that's throwing you the baseball. That's what the Royals are getting right now. It's amazing that on going back to a week ago tonight, with Seth Lugo on the mound and Bobby Witt's home run that left the field, that went over the fencing they put up in the outfield. Which gives you an automatic 4 bases. So they score 4 runs there on that one swing. And the games after that, starting Tuesday to yesterday, they've scored 4 total runs. They got 4 runs on that one swing. And while they got a couple of more in that game, but after the game was over, they've scored 4 total runs, back-to-back shutouts, 1 run total against the Giants. Why? Why is it? I mean, they aren't going up against world beaters and aces every time out. So what are you seeing from this offense? Can you figure out and put your finger on it? And if you can, then, hey, give it to Matt Quatrero and other, Major League Baseball teams. But are they pressing? Is this a team that's not doing the one day at a time, that's really starting to have these things add up and accumulate and their lead shrinking and now gone?
I think it is. Some of them are definitely pressing. Namely, I think Hunter Renfroe has been pressing, especially yesterday with the old platinum sombrero. And then Michael Massey, Michael Garcia are both, seemingly pushing things a little bit harder than they probably should be. But, I mean, it's just a combination of things. I think everybody's making a much ado about runners in scoring position, and that's absolutely earned. They're having like a 460 OPS when runners are in scoring position. Since, it was that last game in Pittsburgh, I think they came and talked about yesterday, how it would have been nice had they gotten the sweep and they couldn't do anything productive when they needed to, couldn't score runs when runners in scoring position. And then ever since then, it's like 460 was runners in scoring position. But also since then, their OPS in general is like 540, worse than baseball. I mean, it doesn't matter if you get runners in scoring position or not. You do have to hit, timely hits and stuff, but just being a productive offense in general is what the Royals have kind of been doing all year too, and it's just not at all there. In fact, they're one of the worst, if not the worst, down the stretch, which is not at all what you want to see. So it is a combination of guys pressing, and when guys are pressing or just not producing, you can't give Bobby Witt Jr. productive at-bats, even though he's still producing with, no leverage. There's no runners on. There's no one that can hit after him. So teams are not giving him anything to pitch, but anything to hit, and he's still getting hits. So it is what it is. I don't know how you snap out of these things. I think that's what Matt Quatrero is supposed to be doing. Massey said in his post-game comments yesterday that they're not in a position to just start throwing stuff at the wall at the end of the year. They have to stick to the process. Salvador Perez said the same thing, and I think that's the answer at this point.
I'm going to make a football comparison here to something Ryan Lefevre said the other day, and I thought it was really astute and something that maybe the Royals should be paying attention to themselves. But last night, Chiefs and Falcons. The Falcons get their first touchdown, a broken play, broken coverage, guy wide open. They score 7. Their other touchdown came from a drive extending, roughing the passer, which was questionable at best, and they end up scoring there. But they get down to 4th and goal with like 4 or 5 minutes to go, whatever that was, and down by 5, and Raheem Morris decides to go for it. I understand that. They could have put 3 points on the board. They get the ball right back. Now they're still down by 5 instead of, it's the whole butterfly effect, et cetera. Still down by 5, and maybe they would have been down by 2, and the field goal goes and wins the game, and you walked out of there. Your 2 touchdowns, you scored 17 points, but there's some context to those 17 points that you scored in the game. Ryan Lefevre said something, I think it was Saturday or Sunday, that the Royals got a couple of guys on, and somebody, was up, and, they struck out or a double play. And his point was, this team needs to figure out how to score a run right now and piece those together instead of thinking a big inning is coming. Even if you're down by a couple of runs, get one. Get one and figure it out after that. And I thought that was a really astute point because, sitting there going, hey, we got a couple of guys on. Let's get this big inning. All right, here we go. We're 1 hit away from breaking this thing open. Maybe it's just seeing a 1-up on the board. Maybe it's seeing somebody cross the plate, especially these last couple of games to break through. But I thought it was a great point that you got to change your mindset right now of, hey, we're going to put this big inning together. Man, let's go get one. And if we can get one every inning, you just got 9. But instead of thinking a big inning is going to break through, we got a leadoff guy on. How in the hell do we get this guy in? And you can't go station to station, Josh, if you never actually get to the next station.
Yes. Yeah, and it's kind of like a walk before you can crawl type of thing. You got to be able to play the small ball in order to have those big innings and be able to fall back on when the offense is slumping like this. You got to be able to fall back on fundamentals and being able to make productive outs when things are there and not grounding in a double play, not strike out in crucial times. That's just not what you can do. And this team has been thriving on productive, timely hits, even when the offense wasn't producing. So they got to find that identity back. I mean, a lot of that is Vinny Pasquantino because that was his middle name all year, was productive outs and coming in at the right time. So losing that consistency in the lineup, not just his presence, but being able to protect Bobby was huge. You could definitely kind of, point back to that as a turning point in the season. But at the same time, like, these guys are in it. They got to have someone step up. It's just not acceptable at this point that they can't even do the fundamental things right anymore. It looks entirely broken. The body language is not great. They got to figure it out real fast because really you got to get it done in Washington. We're kind of at that point where you can't come out of Washington with just one win. That's not going to do it. You're pretty much sunk if that's the case. So Washington is not a good team. They should go out there and easily take 2 of 3. But I'm not really betting on any Royals game being able to attain that at this point because the offense is absolutely broken. But at this point, it has to be Washington because the Tigers and Twins have a pretty favorable schedule if they can't get out of that compared to the Royals going to Atlanta trying to scratch out 1 or 2 wins.
And it's unfortunate that, the one team they've got the tiebreaker over still has 3 against the White Sox. left, and they don't have the tiebreaker over
At
the
home.
Twins. Yeah, exactly.
Not that it matters that much
Right.
for Chicago, but at the same time.
I said to a buddy, we were at my son's flag football game, and he's like, "So where's that series at? Is that in Detroit or in Chicago?" I said, "It's in Detroit, but that thing can be in Egypt. They're taking all 3 of those games, so I don't care where they play that game, that series. They're going 3-0 there. But the offense being broken, some of those things, like the pitching staff hasn't been overall amazing, but man, it's been good enough. And you get a couple of games where you lose 2-0 and 3-1. You feel like you got to find a way to come through. Is this the real Tommy Pham? And he started off hot. He started off hot with the Cardinals and then cooled off to the point that they just let him go. And he started off hot with the Royals. And in this losing streak, he's 5 of 28, 11 strikeouts, no walks as the leadoff hitter. Is this the real Tommy Pham, or is he, along with everybody else, sort of struggling and pressing and trying to do way too much than he probably just should do and go up and give professional at-bats?
He does strike me as a guy that could be pressing, especially when he's struggling as much as he is. But at the same time, I still trust him way more than I trust Adam Frazier or Garrett Hampson or Robbie Grossman at this point to be able to go up there and get a productive out. So, I mean, his struggles are magnified because he's always at the top of the lineup. He's always batting in front of Bobby Witt Jr. So the struggles are going to be magnified immensely at that point. But at the same time, I don't know what the better option is. You're not bringing up Drew Waters from Omaha. I'm not giving at bats to Garrett Hampson or Adam Frazier or, even at this point, MJ Melendez. I'm not giving at bats over Tommy Pham at this point. I don't know what the answer is, but I think you just got to keep, marching the same guys out there. It's not time to shake things up. It's time to double down on what you got and then push through and see what you got at the end of the day. It is what it is.
Josh Kaiser, One Royal Way podcast. All right, Josh, this time next week, we're either talking about a playoff matchup or what in the hell happened. So I'll ask you, do they make the playoffs?
Again, I'm sticking to the process. I've been preaching it this whole call. I've been saying it for the last 4 months or whatever. The Royals are making the playoffs.
Okay.
We're talking about playoff matchup the next time we're talking. Take it to the bank. I'm going to bet the beer bat that I broke the current or the last 7-game losing streak on it, and I'm doing it again. This is a beer bat bet. It's snapping, and they're making the playoffs this year.
You're going out there with a beer bat bet. It's you're putting it on the line there.
Josh, if we can't get
1-0, 100% success rate.
If we can't get it done against a team with a guy gambling till 5 in the morning, then I think we got some issues, right?
Yes. 100%. But at this point, again, I'm not betting on the Royals at all. I'm just going to let it happen.
He was also not betting on the Royals, Dylan. Beautiful, dude. Well done. Josh Kaiser, One Royal Way podcast. Josh, you're the man. Appreciate it, sir. And I'm really, really, really hoping we're having a fun conversation this time next week.
It's happening. Let's have it.
I love your confidence. Love it.
Yep.
Josh Kaiser, One Royal Way podcast, joining us, breaking down this Royals team that is breaking down here late in the season, unfortunately. 3 games left against the Nationals, 3 games left against the Braves. They need to find a way to, I'd say, win at least one of them. I don't think they can make the playoffs on a 13-game losing streak. I'm going to go out on a limb, and if they don't make the playoffs and don't win another game, I'm going to say I told you so.
Bold.
I know.
You're a bold man, Jason.
All right. Let's take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll talk some Chiefs football. We'll do that. Andy Reid coming up at about 12:30 or so. Mick Schaefer, 1 o'clock. Learn funniest best. More Zone next. Dylan Michaels heading up until 2 o'clock. We'll hear from Andy Reid coming up later on this hour. Mick Schaefer in the 1 o'clock hour. Learn funniest best with Mick Schaefer as well. I really am surprised by the amount of people that buy into the NFL is rigged or there's some sort of a script. Like, I thought it was like a funny little thing that the NFL did when at the beginning of the season a couple of years ago when they had the meeting sitting around like sometimes like you read through the script in Hollywood with TV shows or movies, and they had that where they were giving the script out to certain players and they were reading through it and like, oh my God, I can't believe we're doing
funny, yeah.
It was a very funny thing that the NFL did. Or at least the TV networks did to sort of lean into the conspiracy theory of not thinking that people actually believe that. But there are people that actually believe that. And it's really surprising to me. Because I tweeted out earlier today the same thing I said about, the refs, about, just... And we went the whole first hour and 20 minutes without mentioning this at all. But I said, the NFL refs are really bad at their jobs. So people believe that both these things are true. The NFL refs are really bad at their jobs, but the NFL refs are also so organized and covert that they have orchestrated this way to gift the Chiefs calls late to help them win. Like both those things cannot be true. So I tweet that out. And then a reply. I always love the condescending start to it. Watch more games than just KC. Okay, yeah, I'll start to do that. Yeah, thanks. Great tip. Good advice there, Bubba. This happens in all primetime games. All primetime games. So not only you should watch more games than just KC, but this happens in all primetime games. The underdog gets the early calls to keep the games close, and the favorite gets the late calls to make up for it.
Ah.
The NFL and officiating is rigged to keep games entertaining, keep viewers, and avoid blowouts. It happens in all primetime games.
Yeah, we've never seen a blowout on primetime. We never have.
Every single primetime game this happens in. Now, this was a primetime game for the Chiefs this week. Was it the first primetime game this week? Was there another primetime? Oh, that's right. Thursday Night Football was a primetime game.
Oh,
that was a close game, right? That was back and forth. That was a really close one.
It was a great game.
Yeah, that was
nail-biter.
Yeah, absolutely. What was the final? 24-3? 24-3? That was a really, really close game. They did it for ratings. Great job, refs. You killed it. You did it. You created the ratings. I am so taken aback. Wait, 24-3 is not a close game. Oh, okay. But I was told by conspiracy theory tinfoil hat wearing guy that I need to watch more games than just KC.
Because every single primetime game,
all of them, and he obviously watches all of them.
Yeah,
he wouldn't be exaggerating or anything while condescendingly telling me that all I do is watch Chiefs games, and then also giving us a conspiracy theory
that was so easily debunked. It literally took 3 days.
Yeah. I wonder if there was another primetime game, and I'm just trying to find these primetime games. Last Thursday night. Was there a primetime game last Thursday night? Oh, that's right. The Bills won by 3 touchdowns. They were up 31-10 when Tua was still in the game. I just, wow. But I was just told by a really smart person who clearly watches every game.
All of them.
Not just KC games.
All of them.
That all primetime games follow that same script because the NFL is rigged to do that, yet we just found 2 of the last 1, 2, 3 of the last 5 primetime games, 2 of them have been blowouts.
And extreme blowouts. And by the way, just for the rigged crowd, always makes me laugh. It's never rigged when their team wins.
Rigged.
Never when their team wins, never rigged. How dare you even come up with that possibility? But when their team loses, only explanation, it's rigged. No chance the Falcons lost. No chance the Bengals are 0-2 legitimately. No. Has to be rigged. But when they win, oh, come on. It's legit.
First Monday Night Football game of the season, the 49ers were leading 32-13 over the Jets. 32-13. So we've had 2 Thursday nights and a Monday night game through the first 2 weeks and non-Monday night yet in week 3 that have been blowouts. That's weird.
That dude in your mention obviously needs to watch more football.
Well, I'm not going to tell him that. He watches all of them. So, I mean, yeah. It's weird. Not sure. 913-912-4810 is the text line. We'll hear from Andy Reid coming up a little bit later on this hour. Mick Schaefer will join us in the 1 o'clock hour right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. We get some Learn Funniest Best today as well. And, of course, we talk with our NFL insider, Field Yates from ESPN, who we get into a conversation with now as the Chiefs, one of 5 teams still undefeated, one of 4 teams 2-0. I think one of 5 teams after tonight that'll be 3-0. But Field Yates joins us. Field, welcome into the show. How are you, sir?
Jason, I'm doing better now that we had to audible by 13 minutes here, as my car had quite a morning. Let me leave it at that, because I'm sure nobody cares about my car troubles. But I'm glad that I am now in a functioning car once again this afternoon here in glorious Connecticut. And what a night it was again last night for the Chiefs. I got to tell you, I keep thinking about these takeaways from this team that you and I have been talking about for 5 seasons now, and how many different ways can you write a story that oftentimes is similar, right? Meaning the most important part, which is the Chiefs win. And I often find myself bothered by coach speak. But there's an old coaching saying that before you can start winning games, you have to find ways to not lose games, right? And I felt like the Chiefs last night were the evidence of the team that knew how to win a game versus a team that did not know how to win a game. And it's a different central character seemingly every single week for Kansas City. It's not just the team with the best player on the planet. It's also, I think, the team that has the best roster on the planet. It's not perfect, no roster is, but every week it feels like we're talking about some new guy who was either overlooked or not discussed that much coming into the NFL, making a major mark, and last night was no exception. Can
both things be true in that the Chiefs have found ways to win or to not lose, but found ways to win, and it's kind of what they've done in their last 9 games that they've played since that Christmas Day loss to the Raiders? 8 of those games have been by 1 score, and they are 9-0. The only game that was not 1 score was that Dolphins game when it was minus 30, minus 40-degree wind chill. Yeah. But can both things be true, Field, in that this team finds ways to win? They've done enough late in the game, while also at 3-0, they're pretty fortunate that they're sitting 3-0 right now.
I think so. I think that's fair. And what I will say is that at the end of the season, when we're talking about AFC seeding, it doesn't matter whether you won by 100 or you won by 1. Your record is your record, right? There was a few years ago, actually more than a few years. I know it was a few years ago now, probably 3 or 4, where the Raiders won all these close games. And there's kind of 2 ways to look at it, right? Is that like, hey, this is a team that's ready to step forward next year, right? They went 9-8 or 10-7 or whatever it was. Like, isn't this team the real deal? Or you could say that history has told us that 1-score games are often coin flippy, and they just kind of flip the right side of the coin. And I say often coin flippy because not always coin flippy. This team just gets it. They just get it. They just understand. And the limitations on offense are different this year than they have been in other years. Last year, maybe they kind of remind some people of last year, but a more pedestrian start for Travis Kelce this year, which just makes it feel a little bit different for me. And yet they just grind them out. They're excellent situationally, defensively. These key moments. It feels like Spags is always one step ahead of the opposing coordinator or play caller. I get it. There were some oft-discussed penalties last night. But you know what? I don't know, Jason. I tend to find that, like, you isolate one play from a game of 60 minutes, and it tends to make their analysis a bit reductive. Was it a penalty? Probably.
Yeah, it was.
Was it the final play of the game? And if the Falcons kick a field goal or score a touchdown the next game, the Chiefs lose? No. I mean, there's still, at that point, a few minutes left on the clock. So, there was the old expression, or not the saying that Andy Reid used a few years ago to Patrick, right? When things get grim, be the reaper, right? And I'm not sure things have been grim in the sense that, like, the Chiefs are down by 10. That was the connotation that Andy was using it in those playoff comebacks back in the day. But when it's almost like, like when the pressure ramps up, like which team wilts and which team becomes a diamond. And that's what the Chiefs has done. So I get it. I'm sure there are Chiefs fans that wish it were easier and that they, that they're already having to stay up late for all these primetime games. It would be nice to go to bed a little bit less charged up. But I'd rather be 3-0 with 3 gritty wins as opposed to 1-2 or 0-3, like some teams that are some quality teams are 1-2 right now, in part because they just can't convert when it matters the most.
Yeah, we joked earlier in the show about Mahomes' comments after the game was over that said, we've been in these games and these things get come down the last couple of plays. We're going to try not to do that every single week. And I'm like, good one, good one, Patrick.
Yeah,
it's a funny one.
Yeah. Hey, good for radio. Good for radio, though, right?
No doubt. But it's a great point on if that pass interference is called, which it was pass interference. It should have been called, and it would be 1st and goal for the Falcons, down by 5 with 4 minutes to play. And if there's one thing we know, Field, is that we've never seen the Chiefs be able to come back and win a game in that situation, even if they scored a touchdown.
Never.
That's the point. Is maybe the Falcons do win. Maybe we're talking about the Chiefs finding a way to kick a field goal late and win the game against Atlanta and say, well, they did it again. It was too close, but they found a way to get by with a win. I don't know what happens after that point. I wish it was called, but also I wish the roughing the passer call earlier wasn't called on Chris Jones, and then they scored a touchdown on that drive, and that was a 3 and out. So these things take place in every single game. It's just a matter of who you are and who you root for, and the world right now is not rooting for the Chiefs, which I understand.
Jason,
I understand.
I mean, last week, a clear and obvious pass interference people are mad about, right? So it's
true.
like, again, it's dumb situational football by the Bengals, and generally refs are going to be they're going to allow more contact on Hail Marys. It wasn't a Hail Mary, though. It was a 4th and 16 play where, literally all that guy has to do is just that young defensive back just has to be a little bit more patient, and it's game over, and no one's complaining about it. But when the ref literally calls obvious calls and fans get mad about that, then it's like they want it both ways. And this is, Jason, this is the reality, and I see this in sports all the time. Success breeds envy, and it's gotten to the point now where Patrick is as likable of an athlete as I could, recall, and he's going to have detractors, not because of anything about his game, but about the fact that he just keeps winning, and that's just that's sports in a nutshell for you.
Field Yates from ESPN is our guest. What have you seen from Patrick Mahomes? It certainly feels like a season so far that he has been struggling in. I think he's 18th in QBR. He's down in the 20s in quarterback rating. He's got 5 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. He said after the game that he's not playing well, which is also part of the fact that the Chiefs are 3-0 and they're future Hall of Fame quarterbacks doing this. What have you seen from Patrick Mahomes, and is this just sort of one of those things where maybe players go through 3 or 4 game stretches and he'll break out of it, trying to put 2 touchdowns on the board every single drive? What are you seeing, and what do you think's happening with Mahomes as what's been a struggle so far, and some inaccurate passes and some bad decisions?
Yeah, a couple of gaffes. Justin Simmons, he's like the only person on planet Earth who kind of phases Patrick Mahomes. So that's, thankfully he's in a different division now for the Chiefs' sake, right?
Yeah.
It's so interesting, Jason, because the headlines and the bottom line and the numbers are what you just described them as, and those are accurate. There's no interpreting them, right? 5 touchdowns, 4 picks. That's not what you expect from Patrick Mahomes. And yet I find myself appreciating the snap in, snap out plays where it's it's not even like a highlight reel. It's 2nd and 6, pressure comes off the blind side, Patrick eludes the pressure, escapes the pocket, throws it to Rashee Rice for an 8-yard gain. That's going to look in the box score like relatively nondescript offense.
Yeah.
And yet you think about it, and it's the 2nd and 6 turned 1st and 10 as opposed to 3rd and 12, which with it's not like it's not convertible, but obviously your chances of moving the sticks are much lower. And I guess I find myself appreciating the perpetual greatness more than I do. Of course, there's a standard that is held when you are the best player on the planet. So I'm not saying it's unfair to criticize him. I can't find myself too disappointed by the play to this point because I also feel as though. He is. It's not exactly a hand tied behind his back, but their I don't know what level play, fifth, sixth best offensive player. Isaiah Pacheco is out for 6 to 8 weeks, maybe longer at this point. Like that totally changes the running game and the passing game. You're talking about one player, and I think we have a chance for that to be two with Xavier Worthy. But right now, there's one player that really threatens you in the passing game, and I know Travis Kelce has done that for close to a decade now. But I don't think defenses at this moment are viewing him as the same level of threat as Rashee Rice is. So he and Xavier Worthy could certainly get there, but it's just a different offensive attack right now because of the limited playmaking around him. And that's, the reality for the Chiefs, for as long as Patrick Mahomes is the quarterback, is because he's going to be at the top of the heap pay-wise, is they're going to have an area of the roster that they're going to have to just grind it out week in, week out, or season in, season out. Right now, the chemical imbalance seems to be hitting the wide receiver / playmaking room. There's going to be another time where the Chiefs probably can't cover anybody at some point during this Patrick Mahomes era, right? I mean, early in his career, they were winning games, 38-30 because they were a different defensive team. So I guess I'm sort of two minds. Like no player's immune to criticism, but I also find myself, covering the league and watching all 32 of these teams and finding myself rather nonplussed by Chiefs' relative struggles when I watch a team like Dallas 1-2 or the Cleveland Browns who pay their quarterback $230 million fully guaranteed, getting their butts kicked at home against a Giants team that looked absolutely hapless the week before.
Yeah. Yes, that's exactly right.
It's hard, yeah.
It's such a week-to-week league, and week in and week out, the Chiefs find themselves 3-0, but there's just so much craziness that's taken place, especially these last couple of weeks. It's including the Raiders playing at home against a team that looked like they were going to be barreling towards the number one pick, and apparently all it took was Andy Dalton. But could Bryce Young have been that bad? Could that whole thing have been because of Bryce Young to where the Panthers looked that much different? I feel like there's got to be more than that, right? Than just the quarterback makes a difference of scoring like 5 points versus scoring 36 in a game.
Yeah, I'm not ready to say it's as simple as Andy Dalton is markedly better than Bryce Young. I wonder if this is one though, Jason, where everybody in the building knew it was a problem, and you just can't cut bait before the season begins. Right? Like, I wonder if everybody in the locker room is kind of like, something like, I know Andy Dalton is just kind of who he is. He is, I think you're legally required if you cover the NFL today to just describe him as a solid quarterback. But he is a solid quarterback, right? And Bryce is the number one pick a year ago who they mortgaged a significant amount of capital to acquire. So there's a part of me that wonders if, maybe they all kind of knew this. They just needed to let it run its course a little bit before they could execute this change. I think that Andy sets a much higher floor for this team. And if you look at, and there's a million different numbers in the tape, but one thing that I thought was sort of alarming in the first 2 weeks, and not to the point that I thought they would bench Bryce Young, but if you go back and look at the way that they held up in pass protection, I thought it was fine. Oftentimes when a quarterback is as hapless as Bryce Young's first 2 games show you, it's because a quarterback was under duress and pressured every single snap, and it just looked abominable.
Yeah.
I didn't see that with the Panthers in the first 2 weeks. It felt more like a quarterback who maybe was in his own head. And so I say all that to say that maybe it was easy for everybody to dunk on the Panthers this past week, and I certainly had my moments in the sun, too, of saying, how good what has this organization done once again? But it looks like maybe they were responsible in making this change now, because you and I both know, just like from the psychology and the politics of the locker room, if Andy Dalton in 5 games from now turns into a pumpkin, there's no harm and no foul in going back to Bryce Young, right?
Yeah.
You get to sort of build it as the potential turnaround story. So I give really the entire team, the organization. I did not think it would go as well as it did yesterday, and it looks like a damn good offense for at least one Sunday.
Yep. Field Yates from ESPN. Field, glad that you are now in a working automobile, and enjoy the football. Thank you for still being able to join us, and we will catch up next week. Thank you, brother.
Yeah, we'll do it at our normal time and hopefully under normal circumstances too.
Well, let's hope. It's all good, man. Thank you, sir. Enjoy the rest of your day, brother.
Thank you.
Absolutely. There's Field Yates, ESPN, our NFL insider. Boy, Chuba Hubbard looked good, too. I'll tell you that much. Anybody that's – I know that Dan Graziano, there was a couple of tweets that were going around over the weekend that, Dan Graziano was reporting the Chiefs were interested in Deontay Johnson and the Chiefs were interested in trading for Miles Sanders. And then you go and actually read the report, and he was just talking about different players that might be traded. And he talks about Deontay Johnson, and he said, I think he connected him with the New England Patriots, and then said the Chiefs and like few other teams are also interested in acquiring a talented wide receiver. Not Deontay Johnson. Then they talked about Miles Sanders. And Miles Sanders he had going to the Dallas Cowboys. And then it said, I could also see the Chiefs, blah, 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 being interested in trading for a running back. And yet somehow the aggregators took that and said, Dan Graziano was reporting the Chiefs are interested in Deontay Johnson and Miles Sanders before the trade deadline, which is absurd. Because if you watched any portion of that Panthers-Vegas game yesterday, you would see that offense stagnated the second Miles Sanders came in the game. Chuba Hubbard in the game, that thing was working like a locomotive. Miles Sanders came in the game, and it stopped. Like that little small difference, it's not good.
Why would they trade for a guy whose contract is just asinine in Miles Sanders? Like, I get there's an
absurd.
out, but they would have to pay the out.
Yeah,
they would have to pay the $8.1 million cap hit.
Yeah, it's
why?
It's the aggregators that are looking for interaction, and by tweeting that out, even though it's completely and totally misleading, they get the interaction. Here's what he said about Deontay Johnson.
Now, this is different because I love Deontay Johnson.
Yeah, the landing spot would be New England, but added, quote, the Rams, Chiefs, Commanders, and Cowboys would also like to add a talented wide receiver. Nothing specific to Deontay Johnson. Miles Sanders, landing spot Dallas, and said, quote, I could also see the Chiefs, Raiders, or Browns being interested. I could see them being interested. Not that they're going to. But yet that is then taken, tweeted by aggregators of Dan Graziano reporting Chiefs are interested in trading for Deontay Johnson and Miles Sanders before the trade deadline.
Those aggregators are the worst thing that has ever happened to...
Sorry, Mirov's fault.
One of the worst.
I mean, seriously, he was the original aggregator. Now he works at the 33rd team, and he was My Sports Update, which basically just took information and news from other people and reposted it on his site.
Yeah.
It's just brutal because
But at least that
rarely
would be,
true. And
right,
it's
if
just
it's news or reports, that's just creating.
To his credit, he was more insider than these people.
Yeah,
were.
this is creating a story out of somebody throwing something out there that, oh yeah, Chiefs are interested in talented wide receivers. Yeah. Oh my God, they're going to trade for Deontay Johnson. I could see the Chiefs being interested in trading for Miles Sanders. Oh my God, Dan Graziano saying the Chiefs are interested in going to trade for Miles Sanders. Like, the hell are you talking about?
I do want Deontay Johnson because I've always loved Deontay Johnson, and I hope
Hey.
Sky Moore was going to be Deontay Johnson, and no. Clearly,
I'll tell you what,
not.
he was a difference maker yesterday with Andy Dalton. Deontay Johnson looked damn good. That offense was
He's always looked good.
humming.
With the corpse of Big Ben, with Mason Rudolph and Duck Hodges, he always found ways to get open, and that's why, again, you see why it looks so damning for Bryce Young is he does have receivers, he does have weapons, he just couldn't hit those guys.
Dude, the quarterback play all over the league. Sam Darnold is, an MVP candidate. Geno Smith is undefeated, whether that's schedule related or not. Justin Fields is 7-3 in his last 10 starts, dating back to week, I think 11 or 12 last year. It's unbelievable what we're seeing right now from some of these undefeated teams. Patrick Mahomes, 5 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. I mean, there's only been, out of all the games, we're talking about offense being down. Caleb Williams with the game that he had yesterday, and even though he's been terrible. Out of all the games that have been played so far, there's only been one quarterback that has 300 yards and 3 touchdowns in a game. Did you guys know that? Out of all the games played this year. Sterling, do you know who that is?
Oh, I know exactly who it is.
Who is it?
Let me look up his nickname. Give me 1 second. He doesn't have it. I thought it was like the Red Rider. It's Andy Dalton.
Red Rifle, yeah.
Red Rifle. Red Rider. I was saying like the wagon.
Andy Dalton, he's played one game, and he's the only one with 300 yards and 3 touchdowns. Now, a little misleading because you've got Sam Darnold that I think had 294 yards and 4 touchdowns. So,
Okay, well then who's the two guys, Andy Dalton and Sam Darnold?
I mean, it's just like legit Sam Darnold. If he continues to play anywhere near, it's on an MVP pace. If Sam Darnold was named anything but Sam Darnold, he would be moving into the lead in MVP voting, not Mahomes still somehow being the lead in MVP voting or in Vegas in the odds. It's been crazy. Some of the
Are they going to have? Hear me out.
I'm going to hear you out.
Just. I know we got to go to break, Dylan. I'm sorry. 1 second here.
He's mad at you. He's number one. I agree, but not like that.
Different finger.
Yes.
Different finger. If the Vikings go, let's say like 11-6, let's say even like 10-7, and they make the playoffs, how do you go to J.J. McCarthy? How do you not stick with Sam Darnold if he keeps? I'm not saying he has to play like just like this, but let's just say he throws for over 4,000 yards. The numbers look good, and the Vikings make the playoffs in a year where they thought it was a complete rebuild. How do you move on from Darnold? There's going to be some tough conversations.
I mean, you spent a first-round pick on a quarterback. You better be able to move on from Sam Darnold.
I don't know.
Well, no, but you're winning.
Sam
What?
Darnold, not like it's Jordan Love and Aaron Rodgers, but it's
Sam Darnold was a first-round draft pick.
Not theirs.
Dylan.
I agree.
Not their first-round draft pick.
No, not at all.
But, I mean, he's got 8 touchdowns,
4
2
teams.
interceptions so far this year. 8 touchdowns, 2 interceptions.
I'm just saying, if he ends up throwing 35 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, 4,000-plus yards, and the Vikings make the playoffs, I don't know how you would say, you know what? Yeah, J.J. McCarthy's an unknown quantity is going to be better than that.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Yeah, Darnold threw for 181 and 4. There was another quarterback that I saw this weekend that threw for like 294, 295 yards and like 3 touchdowns. And it's like, it's a little bit of skewing the stats, but who cares? That's what makes it fun. Come on, have
Brock
some.
Purdy had 292 with 3 touchdowns.
That's
all,
what it was. That's
all
what it was. It was
to
Brock Purdy.
Juwan Jennings.
Yeah, it was Brock Purdy that had 292 and 3 touchdowns. And then, oh my God, Ronnie. Oh, that one hurt my heart. With Ronnie Bell there late in the game with San Francisco. All right, we'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll continue rolling. More Zone next. Clock Hour, learn funniest best from the weekend. We'll get into all of that before we are done. Thank you to Field Yates joining us, moving some things around. We appreciate him doing that. Right now, let's hear from Andy Reid in the press conference. And Andy Reid up at the podium getting ready for the Los Angeles Chargers of Anaheim. And here is Andy Reid's opening statement.
On, which is a good thing. If you're coming off a win, we know there's some things there that we need to do a better job with, especially playing a good Charger team this week. So I would tell you the same things that I told you last night as far as the people that had the good games. There were some guys that really played well. I started with Bolton, just getting the wind knocked out of him and then sneaking back in there and making a big play like that was tremendous at the end there. Maybe the best thing that took place was nobody was pointing fingers, or everybody was supporting each other, working their way through. And that's happened really the last 3 games in these tight games, knowing that you're going to get people's best shot. You're going to have to take it for right down the 4 quarters. So with that, Steele had a nice day with 17 carries for 77 yards. I thought Rasheed played well, had over 100 yards in receptions. Again, there were things that all of these guys, we can all do better here, myself included. But there were some positives that you can take out of this thing. So, and it's always good to get a win. Wins are hard to get in the National Football League, and so when you start criticizing wins, there are a lot of variables that go into it. But we're finding a way right now. But we got to clean it up and play better football.
So there you go, Andy Reid talking about the win is a win, as we talked about. You start criticizing wins, you get into a completely different area. But he continued. Blair Kirchhoff asked Andy about the play of Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, listen, he's a phenomenal player, and I thought he just kind of got into a rhythm the second half, and a lot of that's my responsibility to get him into that rhythm earlier, and so we'll go back and I'll discuss all that and get that taken care of. But I thought he really hit it well the second half there, and had some beautiful throws. That throw to Kelsey on the deep cross and the throw to Rasheed, same route, 2 different throws though, and was spot on there. So, but anyways, he ended up finishing well. We kind of botched up the last play of when we weren't trying to kill, when we were coming out of the end zone there offensively. We had a missed route there. So, but other than that, listen, there are a bunch of things that like I said, we can clean up, but it'll be all right.
And also on that cleanup list does it include the kind of the goal line area? You had each of the last couple of weeks short field goals, and I'm wondering what's going to take to get it punched in.
Yeah, it's tough to win games like that. And it's like just scoring 3 points. You get down in there, you gotta get it in. We've chosen to run the ball a little bit down there, and then we did have a turnover in that area. So. We got to do better with that when we were throwing the ball.
So yeah, they keeping the ball, controlling the ball, killing the clock late, certainly all parts of winning, but they've been able to be 3-0 so far. Andy Reid continued. Matt Derrick asked about that late route that Xavier Worthy seemed to stop on last night.
Yeah, that actually wasn't him. That was his compadre. So ran the wrong route. So he just stopped so he didn't run into him. But yeah. But they Pat checked to a play there, and the communication got a little mixed up. So one of the routes wasn't the right route. It
And
wasn't his, so.
I appreciate that clarification. And defensively, this defense has talked a lot about in the past games about, killing the engine as far as stopping the other team's run game. Even in this day and era, how important is that when your defense is able, as it has really the last 3 games, to be able to stop a lead running back that's been doing pretty good on the other team?
Yeah, no, that kid's a heck of a runner. They got 2 good runners. And I thought we stepped up and did a nice job there. Up front, I started naming off the guys last night, but I mean it's really all of them collectively. That whole front 7 is just doing a nice job of, and the safeties too. We're being accurate with our tackles there, so that's and physical, which has been good.
All right, so there you go. How about that? It wasn't Xavier Worthy, that last play on 3rd and 2, said it wasn't him, it was his compadre. He stopped so he wouldn't run into him. One of the routes wasn't the right route, not him, though. So that would be Rashee Rice.
Yeah, it was Rashee Rice, yeah.
They were both in the area together, and apparently Rashee Rice ran the wrong route. Patrick Mahomes had checked to that play, miscommunication on the check that Xavier Worthy picked up. Patrick Mahomes had, Rashee Rice did not. And Xavier Worthy apparently was worried he was going to run into Rashee Rice out of the peripheral, like, oh, wait, is that ball to me?
Sure.
I see him. He starts slowing down because somebody wasn't supposed to be in that area. Xavier Worthy was. And that's unfortunate because Xavier Worthy was freaking wide open if he keeps running. But
I think it's kind of good news for Xavier as far as understanding and knowing the playbook,
Agreed.
even in a check down, even in a high leverage situation. Yeah. Again, poor result, but the process is good. And again, overall, the result of a win is, again, you want this to happen in wins, not in losses.
And it's great that we get clarification on that because I would have continued thinking, all right, was that Xavier Worthy? Was he supposed to keep going? Why did he stop? Did he think that it was a zone and that's why he was stopping and sitting there in the zone? Did he stop because he didn't think Mahomes was going to throw him the ball? Like all those things. No, he stopped because he didn't want to hit a guy who was in the wrong spot. And that's good to know. Andy Reid continued saying that winning close games is nice, but it is not easy.
It's so much stress I can't talk, Vahe. Listen, it's I don't think you get used to it. You don't want it to come down to that. You're trying to score as many points as you obviously can, but we're that's how things go. But the trust that the guys have in each other, I know that's easy to say, but when you actually have that, the guys know that something's good is going to happen. Becomes very important, and but you surely don't want it to come down to that.
Yeah, and thanks, Andy. And the other thing is, it's really another point on Patrick, just that he spoke last night about wondering a little bit himself about his own footwork and maybe relying too much on his arm. Is that something that you've seen or something that you think you'll be talking to him about?
Yeah, I think he'll be fine there. Just getting him in rhythm, I think, is an important thing. And that encompasses all of that stuff, the footwork and the knee bend and the, his drop and so on. So, and then, the more we secure things up front also helps. And so he came off a game where he had to get the ball out quickly last week with the pressure that was on it. But I thought the offensive line did a nice job here, and I think Pat will see that, and that also helps the situation.
Interesting. The offensive line did a nice job. I think Pat will see that.
Yeah. As
in saying maybe there was a lack of trust in the game last night from what Patrick was seeing and what was actually happening with the offensive line.
Give Andy some water, by the way.
I know,
Andy,
right?
take a second. Grab a sip of water, my guy.
Choked up. It's not easy to finish off those games. Andy continued. Petro asked Andy about the interception Mahomes threw against the Falcons.
Yeah, well, we should have had the protection for him. We botched the protection, so or that's a touchdown right there.
Okay. So, and then Xavier Worthy, I know you've said there's a lot to clean up. You've mentioned some route things. You haven't mentioned anyone specifically, so I'm not trying to pick on him, but where is he now in, the nuances of your offense of maybe bending away from safety help and, curling routes, doing the sitting down and those kind of things that are required of your receivers, in his evolution of where you want him to be? Is he 50% of the way there, 60, 80? I mean, how would you evaluate that?
Yeah, no, he's doing a great job with that. I pulled off on a couple of the routes just with some of the things they were doing, but he had a number of routes there in the first 15. I chose to pull off them because of what they were doing. So, but he can, he's doing a nice job for us. He'll have other games here where he has more grabs. He did a nice job with the quick game stuff though, that we were using him on.
And it's what we talked about earlier. I'd like to see Xavier Worthy to see how he's doing with some of the actual routes. That Juju Smith-Schuster touchdown, go watch Xavier Worthy and the route he runs at the top and gets open. It's a touchdown, so it doesn't matter because Juju was more open. But if somehow they had covered that, if Justin Watson hadn't, impeded the progress to a degree of the defender legally doing that, and Juju wasn't there, Xavier put a great move on the cornerback to get open there in the sideline in the end zone.
Yeah, it's a rub, not a pick. It's a rub.
He didn't even rub him.
It's a rub.
Rubbin's racing. He didn't even rub him.
I will also point out, I think people are wondering about the lack of explosion on offense, some of the explosive plays. We know the running backs are not the explosive type. They're the kind of grind-it-out type of runners, right? Samaje, Carson, and even Isaiah Pacheco was.
Mm-hmm.
Receiving game. Rashee Rice is not really an explosive wide receiver. But you don't have to throw the ball deep when they're doing these cover two shells. You can have explosive plays when you get the ball into the hands of guys like Xavier Worthy. Yeah. He's an explosive player. So, and to your point, I'd like to see him catch the ball on an actual route and only have to make one guy miss instead of catching it on a little mesh route where he has to make now 8 guys miss behind him. Let him get some of those one-on-one situations.
Pete Sweeney asked Andy Reid about how Wanya Morris did in his start at left tackle.
Yeah, listen, I thought Wanya did some good things in there. So we'll probably stick with that same thing. You saw where Kingsley rotated in and played some tight end and that. So he was able to get some good reps in there. And then again, Wanya, had the good reps at the left tackle spot. So do they both have stuff to work on? Yes. So we'll keep their young guys. They're young guys in a tough position with a tough go here, and they've got another good one coming here this week. So that they've got to prep for a couple good ones. So we've got to make sure we keep growing, but they're surely getting tested early.
Todd?
Coach, I wonder if you could just talk a little bit more about what you saw from Rashee Rice getting so many targets. I know you throw to whoever's open, but is it ideal to have him getting that many targets, or would you like to spread around a little bit more?
Well, I mentioned to you, how Rashee's game goes is kind of how Kels's goes. So what they're doing is they're working hard at taking Kels out of the picture, and Kels is going, hey, listen, if they're going to do that, then Rashee's going to get a lot of catches. He knows that, and but somewhere that levels off, and that like it did the second half, and Kels's catch numbers went up there. So, but Rashee's he's a force in there. I mean, he's a good football player, and he's tough when he has the ball in his hands. So, I'm sure he'll be getting a lot more attention as we go.
We'll see if that's the case. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back, continue rolling. We'll talk with Mick Schaefer eventually here in the 1 o'clock hour. More Zone next. Check my watch here. Yeah, noon out. Press conferences. We'll talk with Mick Schaefer. You know, right now on NFL Network, they're replaying the Sunday Night Football game from last night. That would be the when the Chiefs played the Falcons. And there's a play in here later on in the second half where Harrison Butker misses an extra point. And I went back and looked because I couldn't remember what the score predictions that we had. And one of us had 23-17. The missed extra point, the final score was 22-17. If it was anybody but me, I wouldn't care. I wouldn't say it. But, yeah. So what that means is I got it wrong. I was not right. That means none of us got the score right this time. So, take that. Best coming up, hanging out with Mick Schaefer, KSHB 41 sports director. Mick, how the hell are you, man?
Tremendous.
Good.
It's another Monday.
It is.
It's a Monday. We're talking sports.
It's a rainy Monday.
It's a fall-like Monday.
Is there anything worse than
It's not even fall-like? We're in fall now, aren't we?
Yeah,
We've hit fall.
It's a Monday, but it's a rainy Monday. Those are the worst. Like a rainy Monday.
Well,
it's like gloomy.
It's gloomy. I wouldn't call it rainy yet. It's fine.
Gloomy. Yeah,
It's fine.
well, I don't know. Gloomy, rainy, sort of the same thing. Synonymous.
Can you
sometimes.
golf in it? If the answer is
absolutely.
yes, that's my
100%,
point.
100%.
Then it's not really rainy.
Great golf weather.
Yeah.
Well, you can golf in rain too. You know,
I'm not going to.
Not a good time.
Could. Yeah. I'm just not saying you
Wind,
should.
it's the biggest deal.
Wind's the worst.
If there's no wind,
wind is the worst.
I'll golf in like 38 degrees.
Oh, guaranteed.
Right?
Sign me up.
If it's really windy, I don't want 65.
Yeah. Outside playing basketball, I'd rather play basketball when it's raining
huge.
than if there's wind.
Sure.
So I'll figure out like the rain and holding on to the, but I can't figure out when there's a gust of wind to take the ball right or left. You know, I'm not.
You got to practice power moves and layups then when it's windy.
That's exactly right. It's free throw day.
Yeah.
Just free throw day. The winds shouldn't affect the free throws. It's not that far away. Mick Schaefer.
Working on footwork.
That's right. Mick Schaefer pivots. Pivot. Some of those things. Mick Schaefer is hanging out with us. Mick, when they're home games and you guys have the post games, you get people that infiltrate your set and show up unannounced. Then on a road game, Pete Sweeney shows up unannounced, and now you got to deal with him in the post game.
And Matt Derrick, they infiltrate our set.
What is that all about, right? You just can't have the set to yourself.
I know. They ran into the studio like, woo! They had signs. They were drunk.
Oh my gosh! Yeah, you could tell that they were slurring their speech. It was so they were drunk on analysis is what they were. Drunk on takes is what they were.
They were drunk on takes. No, they were there. Pete was there from like 4:30 all the way till midnight. Matt got there and watched the game, and then they all do their writing there and all that stuff. And so it's good. I'm a social beast. I love the company. I love the fellowship. So it's fun having people there.
He's a social beast.
So we have a dumb setup. So we have the game, right? But for some reason, Nick Jacobs, we have this other feed that is no announcers, and it is about 6 to 8 seconds ahead. He has to have it on.
Yeah.
He has to have it on. I'm like, well, why don't we just have that on? He's like, well, there's no announcers. I'm like, oh my God, why don't we have it off? No, I just want to know. I'm like, so we have four. You see the four big TVs there. He's that guy on the right. So I'm just turned to the left, watching the two that have the regular feed on.
Yeah.
But then he grunts like before the interception. He's like, ugh. I'm like, well, I know something bad's gonna happen. Thanks, Nick. Either you don't make sounds or turn that damn TV off. Well, then we add a third layer. Because we were getting the, I guess it was the blimp feed the entire time, right? When they take it on Sunday Night Football, going to break, showing the roof open of Mercedes-Benz Stadium. We got to see it 24/7. So it's on the fourth TV. It's about 6 to 8 seconds ahead of the one that's 6 to 8 seconds ahead of the broadcast.
Wow.
And so occasionally they're getting the angle there, and you can see the play in there, or you can see the video, the ribbon board, and what's going on. You can see fans cheering. So I started watching that and making noises before Nick would make his noises and ruin it for everybody else.
There you go.
You're in the future at that point.
We're in the future.
Yeah,
yes.
you could see it before
I
it happened.
I could have made bets, maybe.
And I've got YouTube TV, so you're a good 30 minutes ahead of me. Way ahead of me.
He's just now in the fourth quarter.
My dad, what was it? It was 7-0. My dad just texted me. He's like, "Hey, I saw you called." I'm like, "I'll call you later after the Chiefs lose."
Oh.
He goes. Wait, have they already lost? I know I'm behind on YouTube TV. I didn't know if it's that much. I don't know if he's joking or not, but it was funny.
That's pretty. Like even YouTube TV, which has been a great choice that we've made, is to switch to that. Do not regret it at all. But even in like different parts of the house, like it comes in at different times. Like watching the end of the Mizzou game, and my son's upstairs, and it's overtime, and Vandy's lining
you
up.
You can
the
never
kick,
line him
and
up.
All of a sudden, hear clapping. I'm like, I'm guessing he missed this.
Yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and, unless he had money on a triple overtime game, which I don't know. He's 8 years old. Who knows? I have no idea. We live on the Kansas side. It's try to teach him math.
Yeah.
That's all it is. It's sports and math. And yeah, he loses some money from time to time.
Economics.
But he's learning.
Yeah.
He's learning to do this. These are lessons, I'm not sure if he had, Vandy with the points. I have no idea, but I just heard clapping before that, and then he shanks it left. So a little bit like that, yeah.
You got to do the deal. So like when we're in the basement, we'll have the bar TV on, and sometimes people over on the side want to watch one of the other TVs, want to watch the same thing. You got to sync them up, right? And so I wait for like a cutaway shot of the one that's ahead, and then I count 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000. Okay, then I go over to the one that's ahead. I hit pause. 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, play. And then try to sync it up as much as possible. You never can, though. I don't think you ever can.
The last 2 years, we have watched the Super Bowl at my nephew's house. And upstairs is where there's a lot of people. And then downstairs is where it's more intimate, where me, wife, son, brother, nephew, sister-in-law, like us, like sort of close-knit watching it. But upstairs is about 3 seconds ahead.
Well, you got to go up there, and you got to change it.
So I knew that the touchdown to McCole Hardman happened. Right? So they take the snap, and we hear everybody cheering upstairs. So I'm like, wait for it. So I'm like, you know what? I'd rather watch it down here with us because upstairs everybody's talking. There's more distractions. Can we flip this? Can you guys go downstairs?
Twitter needs, Elon, get on this. X needs a... hey, I'm watching YouTube delay button you can push, right? And so all your feed is delayed like a minute.
Well, I try.
I'm a cable man. I'm a cable man, so I'm right there.
Yeah, you're faster.
Yeah, cable's great.
Yeah, I try.
I don't know that 4-box with the YouTube TV. That's getting nice on College Football Saturdays. Those are nice.
I try not to go to Twitter until it's a commercial break. And there's a couple of reasons. One, because sometimes I forget if I'm behind, like if I've rewound it to watch a play or two and then did not fast forward.
It's easy to forget.
That sucks. So I try not to get there till the commercial break. But then also, like, I don't want to be tweeting while the game is going on and miss out on something. Or I don't want to be tweeting about Carson Steele missing his sister's wedding, but put Noah Gray because Noah Gray just caught a 13-yard pass. I absolutely did. It's like, Noah Gray, 13-yard reception. Noah Gray missed his sister's. Let me tap, tweet, send, turn it off. Let's get back to the game. Let me hit send and not check it until I arrive in Africa.
Tweet through those mistakes, okay?
Until I arrive in Africa and find out that the whole world has followed my tweet and no idea what's going to happen when I land here.
You blamed Noah Gray for it, too.
Yeah, it was his fault.
Yeah.
He's the one that had the catch. If he drops the ball, or if he doesn't run that good of a route that he's that wide open.
Or maybe it's Andy Reid's fault for not giving the ball to Carson Steele at that moment.
Dude, if he'd have just gave the ball to Carson Steele again, it would be all good.
It'd have been great if he would have dropped that ball and Jason would have tweeted like, "How dare you ruin your sister's wedding?"
Yeah, you make it worse.
Well, I knew at that point I knew it wasn't Noah Gray. I just typed in Noah Gray as they were saying Noah Gray 13-yard catch. Yeah, I mean, I'm watching the thing. I know that it was Carson Steele's family, but it was Noah Gray's fault. So, I mean, it's just we all know that. What's your assessment? I mean, I asked Field Yates. I think the answer is yes to this, but I'll still ask anyway. Can you leave a game or leave the first 3 weeks saying, you know what, they're 3-0. They have found ways to win. It's what they do. They've won their last 9 games in a row, 8 of them by 1 score. The defense has now had 24 straight games without giving up 28 or more points. And yet they're probably pretty fortunate to be 3-0.
Yeah, this is who they are. If you've been paying attention,
I haven't.
This is who they are.
Somebody on Twitter said
this
I
is
only
what
watched
Andy
Chiefs
Reid
games,
is.
So
yeah,
I've only watched 3 football games this year, the Chiefs games.
This is what Andy Reid is. He is way more comfortable in being uncomfortable. We all have that friend, right? When you're out in public, will just do the worst things, just make it awkward for everybody. Andy Reid is like that, but in football games, where he is comfortable in the uncomfortable situations of the close game. He knows the buttons to push there, and I've maintained this for a long time. He's much more comfortable in that setting than being up by 3 scores. He doesn't really know what to do there, right? You know, you don't want to give him, I don't want to embarrass the guy across the way, yada yada. He'd rather be in that situation, and he's great at it. And Patrick Mahomes is great at it. And in the micro, I guess, if you watch a Chiefs game, you're like, yeah, this isn't like these aren't the champs. These guys have no shot. But you take a step back and you look at the big picture, and this team wins what Mahomes has literally won next week when he beats the Chargers 78% of his games to start his career. It'll be his 100th start. It'll be his 78th win. It'll be the most of all time. That's not even counting the postseason, right? Where he's 15-3, which that's got to be better than 78%. I'm pretty sure. Quick math tells me it's better, right? And so Yeah, the guy, that's what they do. That's what they do, and they can Mahomes has not played well this season at all, I don't think.
Yeah.
I mean, the second half he did get in a rhythm. I like the 17-play drive, but he ended it with just a thud. I mean, I know the protection was, I guess, messed up, but I mean, he got out that throw cleanly. Yeah. There's a lot of versions of Mahomes that make that throw, make that completion.
If he waits, I think it's more obviously intercepted.
Well, I was going to say if he waits, he's sacked because he threw that as he was being hit because it was a guy that came. I think the protection mess up that he was talking about is they blitzed between Tooney and Wanya Morris untouched. Carson Steele leaked to the right. And so the blitz pickup did not happen. Now, if he had another second, Carson Steele was wide open because the defense expected Carson Steele to stay in and pick up the blitz, so nobody accounted for him.
But what three of those 4 interceptions this year, right, have been just kind of underneath guy, underthrown, and you were like, did he see him? Did he see
decisions,
him? Did he just not get enough on it? What 3 of those 4 have been very similar.
No, we're talking about the close games, and John Boys on Twitter, he tweeted out last night. He goes, and I'm very jealous of this tweet. I wish I would have thought of it. Said, being a Chiefs fan is a real roller coaster. Sometimes they win by a score of like 26-22. Other times it's more like 25-19. You just never know. Damn it.
That's true.
It's a real roller coaster.
It's a wild world.
You never know how close they're going to win the game by.
That's what they do, man. And I think, look, part of it is like you go into these guys, they're experts at what they do, and you go into the game like, okay, we only have to show this much, right? This is all we have to install. This is all we have to run to get this victory, right? We're going to do the bare minimum, pieces of flair, right? The bare minimum to get this win because that's what it's all about. And come week 15, 16, 17, we still have all this other stuff we haven't shown. And come January, mid to late January, in the playoffs, we got this package over here. There's no reason to reveal this stuff, and so I think that's part of it as well. And then look, there's only 32 teams, and there's 130 FBS programs churning dudes out every year. You got FCS guys that are really good. You got guys out of nowhere like Carson Steele. I think there's way more guys capable of playing in the NFL than are playing in the NFL. It's really close. Everything's really close. I mean, everybody's drafting All-Americans every single year, and the worse you are, the better player you get to go and draft. And so it's designed to be this way, and it just is. And I don't know. I looked down the schedule last night. I don't know where the blowouts happen. With Andy Dalton now with the Panthers, they took away my blowout.
The thing about so far this year and being 3-0 is that they've had different players at different times step up and have to make a play, and it's come through. So against Baltimore, like Rashee Rice had his big game, and until last night, 7 catches, 100 yards. But Xavier Worthy also had the 2 touchdowns. It's like, all right, they scored 27 points. This offense is going to be a lot of fun to watch. Xavier Worthy's first 2 touches in the NFL, or 2 of his first 3 touches in the NFL, are touchdowns. Like, this guy's the true Chris Carter. And then against Cincinnati, you had Trent McDuffie lock up Jamar Chase and Shamari Connor with the scoop and score. That changed the complexion of that game. And then last night, you got Nick Bolton that had one of his best games as a Chief. And after the first 2 weeks of him, being much maligned, and I think deservedly so, about the way that he had played, he was unbelievable last night. And a big reason why they ended up winning that game. And it's like, sometimes guys are stepping up that you expect, and then sometimes guys are stepping up that you don't expect. Turk Wharton had the deflection that Shamari Connor got the interception
FAU
on.
had one of the biggest defensive plays of the game.
Right, and then I love Bijan Robinson with the soccer kick. It was great for him. It was good for him by the soccer kick right out of bounds. Like, it was really good. It's like a sliding kick.
It's better than the defense recovering it.
Exactly.
But I feel like there's other moves there. Like, you just kind of fall on it and, like, intentionally kind of knock it out of bounds.
First it. Like, can you...
Like a header? Again, another soccer move?
Exactly.
It's a corner kick from Kurt
Cousins. I was just thinking about the State Farm commercial. I'm like, is that football also shaped like a soccer ball, like in the State Farm commercial?
Kicking footballs out of bounds is live. It's not as good as the State Farm one. All right, we'll take a timeout. We'll come back. Learned funniest best. We'll see what we learned this weekend. We'll see what the funniest was and what the best was. More Zone right after this. and upgrade your bedroom, kitchen, bathrooms, whatever it is that you're looking for. Top-notch craftsmanship. Visit Citywide Remodelers at citywideremodelers.com. All right, learn funniest best. We go around the room what we learned from the weekend, funniest from the weekend, and the best from the weekend. Even though it was not Noah Gray, it was in fact Carson Steele. Let's play clip number 2 here, Dylan. But what I learned is that apparently you can actually use a football game as an excuse to miss a wedding. Like, this is now allowed, that you can use the football game. I never am allowed to use that excuse that, hey, the football game, I can't go to the wedding because I've got other plans with the football game. But apparently you can.
Well, maybe if you're playing in it.
I don't care. It's still an excuse that the football game does. I can't get the excuse for me. I'm working. We're both working.
I learned last night
we're both working. He's working. I'm working.
I'm a part of it, right? I can influence like Butker's kicks. I learned that.
We'll see.
Night.
But like, I'm working. He's working. We're all working. All right. And yet, no, not for me. Here's Carson Steele, because you would ask the question, obviously, why are they getting married on a Sunday night during the middle of football season?
You tried to book a wedding recently, especially at a nice place?
Not recently. No. It's been roughly 10 years. So luckily, I have not tried to book a wedding. Here's Carson Steele after the game was over on the set at NBC with Sunday Night Football talking about his sister's wedding and missing it.
I got to ask you, would you rather be here or at the wedding?
Man, I hate to say it. I hate to say it, but yeah, and I'll be here every day of the week. Every day of the week. But love you, Kessler.
There's your guys.
Oh man, let's go.
So what happened? They just had the date planned extremely in advance.
Look at him cheer as
That's
you run.
awesome. Yeah, love you, Kessler. Hope it went well. But I'm picking this every day of the week.
So they just had the wedding date already planned? Is that the story?
Yeah,
What's the story?
they did. I think they thought I was going to stay at UCLA one more year, so that's kind of how it planned. But excited for her, man. Hoped everything went blessed and well, so love it.
Yeah, no faith that he was going to be playing on Sundays. That's disappointing. Disappointing.
Well,
with Kessler.
I heard they booked it 2 years ago, so she probably thought he was just going to get done with his game against Bowling Green the day before and be able to make the wedding.
She probably put it on Sunday on purpose.
Yes.
That's exactly what they just said.
She thought he was going to be in college still.
I'm
Sterling,
so silly.
Sterling, what did you learn this weekend besides your silliness?
You awake over there?
It doesn't look like it. Have you been?
I'm tired. Okay, I'm struggling.
Apparently, yes. Who's lighting it up this week? I'll get mine over right now, Sterling. Right now.
Indica.
Okay. What'd you learn, Sterling, this weekend?
That Sam Darnold is younger than Joe Burrow.
Yeah, that's nuts.
Sam Darnold is younger than Joe Burrow.
It just feels like Sam Darnold's been around in the NFL for a long time, and Joe Burrow has only played half his games, available. And then there was the transfer. But yeah, I was surprised to hear that when you told me. I'm like, wait a minute, let's check the math on
like
this.
6 months. Yeah.
How about that? Mick, what did you learn?
I learned that one Gundy had a good game on Saturday. Gunnar Gundy at Emporia State went 49 for 74 passing for 454 yards, rushed for 87 yards, led the team in rushing, and pulled out the upset and beat Mo West. I don't even know if it's an upset anymore because Stinger's up. Emporia State's 4-0. Watch out Northwest next week. I think they beat them last year. So
they're watching.
So Gunnar Gundy had a big game. Of all of Mike Gundy's quarterbacks, he was clearly the best on Saturday.
Yeah, man, it was a really good 4 minutes for Oklahoma State.
The last 4,
great 4 minutes of
football.
Well,
here's the deal.
Oklahoma State, both Cowboys, Oklahoma State and Dallas.
If you have,
really good
if you
4
have
minutes.
Arch Manning, I am all for benching your starting quarterback at halftime and playing him for 3 quarters, the third quarter, but they don't. And in fact, the guy they brought in was behind Gunnar Gundy at one point on the depth chart, who is now playing Division II football. He should have not been on the field, especially for that long. And so they brought in Bowman way too late.
Yeah.
And what was it? The game that we thought it was going to be combined 49 years of quarterbacking for a while there. It was Wilson's little brother.
Yeah.
And then Rangel, who I don't know how old he is, but
yeah. The Cowboys, both Cowboys had great
final
4 minutes or
finishes
so
for a loss
to come close to make it respectable, even though they were getting dominated throughout most of those games.
Yep.
Dylan, what'd you learn this weekend?
So I'm probably late to this. I did not know that Jim Abbott was born without a right hand. He also tossed a no-hitter
Are you
at Yankee
serious?
Stadium. I had no idea.
Seriously,
That's
what?
the only thing Jim Abbott's known for.
Yep.
Yeah. What else did you know him for?
I didn't even know
Had you ever
Jim Abbott
seen
was
him?
a guy. So
I
I
like
literally
how
saw this on the timeline, and I'd never heard of Jim Abbott or this moment.
I like how Dylan couched it by saying, "I'm probably late to this."
He did say that.
Dylan showed up 45 minutes into the test. I'm probably late for this test. It's already started. It has.
Where do I get my Scantron in this pile?
It's already started, hasn't it? Anybody got another number 2 pencil? Apparently, it doesn't work with a number 3.
I'm just a really good teammate. Sterling kind of made the same
Yeah, the
similar
same
mistake.
things, yeah.
I came over the top here. just to
I
make
feel
it
I
even
should have
worse.
said I learned that Ray Charles was blind.
There you go. We
Is
all
he,
learned
though?
something.
Wait, what?
No, Stevie Wonder's not.
I
That's
do have
Ray,
like
Ray
a
was,
learn
yeah.
that's more visual.
Yeah.
Did anyone see NC State has a breath work coach that looks exactly like one you would think a breath work coach looks like, and also Ryan Fitzpatrick?
What's a
So
breath? What is breath work?
I have no idea. So that
Is
maybe
that
should have been
to
my
help-
learn
to help
but
them breathe on the sideline.
That's not
Is
working.
that the breath?
Unfortunately,
I was going to say,
not
they
really
need-
working.
Boy, my goodness, man! North Carolina schools rough weekend.
James Madison game was off the
Jeez
charts.
Louise,
Gave him
man.
the business.
By the way, it was 70-50. The total before the game was 49.
It
was 49. There was 51.
53 at halftime.
Yeah, no, I
Both
think in the
teams
second
covered
quarter,
the over.
like in like, but,
Well,
like
yeah, it
with
would have
like,
been
with
if
like
it was at
8
halftime,
with
yeah.
like 8 minutes to go.
And
like
they
it was
got to
early
60
second quarter.
early third quarter.
God, dude, it was embarrassing for North Carolina kept turning the ball over. All right, let's go to our funniest. We start with you, Sterling. Funniest of the weekend for you.
Yeah. So my fiance watches every Chiefs game. She watches a lot of football with me. She loves football.
That'll change.
And she asked.
Right. Yeah. Anyway, go ahead.
And the Chiefs have these 3rd and 1, 4th and 1. She goes, "Do they ban quarterback sneaks?"
It's a great.
It's almost as late to the party as Dylan was.
It's a great question.
And I was like, no, but it does seem like that with the Chiefs. Obviously, it seems like they've banned
They have
quarterback
banned,
sneaks.
With one quarterback, yes.
Yeah, with one
Wear
quarterback.
number 15.
I go, you have no idea how funny that just was
Yeah.
to me, that you thought they actually banned QB sneaks because you never see Mahomes do it.
Yeah, no, it's if you're not watching every single game specifically and closely and not talking about it as much as we do.
Somebody needs to go back. How many sneaks did he have before that? Because that would have been 2019 season.
2019, yeah.
I would bet he had half a dozen sneaks maybe
Probably.
before that in his 2 years starting, year and a half starting.
Yeah. How many has he had since then?
0.
Let
In
me check
fairness
the
to
math.
her, she did.
How many times did he run the option and got popped doing it? Several.
You're right.
They send him out
Can't
in
kneel
motion.
anymore. Can't him trying to kneel apparently
Yeah,
is an
exactly.
ordeal.
That-
Oh, dude, that
that
scared
was
the
disaster.
Jesus out of me. Yeah, that was against Cleveland is when he got knocked out and unconscious when he got choked out, was running the option.
Yeah.
He grabbed him around the neck, and it's like, well, is he in the concussion protocol? We're like, well, not necessarily. He's kind of in the protocol, but he didn't have a concussion because
how
he
about
was
if he's
just
going to get hit? I would say it's easier.
Yeah.
It's better if it's just guys that are right there
Yeah.
on a quarterback sneak and not guys that are getting a running start. That's just me, though.
You know, if you're thinking about those things. Mick, what was the funniest for you from the weekend?
So I tweeted out last night, hey, who gets married and doesn't invite their pet alligator to the wedding, right?
That's a great question.
And somebody wrote back, who tapes their pet's mouth shut? I'm like, well, I would guess alligator pet owners to begin with. That would be where I would start. And so
I feel, was that rhetorical?
I don't know if the person was like, I'm like, that's not a
Is that
dog,
is that
buddy.
inhumane?
That's not a dog.
They're not even letting that alligator bite.
And first of all, the best part is like just how big of a wuss alligators are in opening their mouths. Right? Chomping them down. They have all the force in the world.
Mm-hmm.
You can tape their mouths with Scotch tape or electrical tape. True
Yeah,
story.
I hear you can
and
just
they
actually,
won't
hold it shut.
Yes, and they
because like,
don't
no
have the
strength.
strength to open it up.
Yeah.
And so there's that part. But then somebody chimed into our little thread. It said, I have 7 pet chickens, and this fall I'm about to do a lot worse than tape their mouths shut. Oh, my God. That's the tweet of the night right there.
Ooh, it's pretty good. Yeah.
It's really, really good.
What are they going to do with those chickens? Tape their mouths shut?
Tapes their pets' mouths
Their
shut.
beaks?
Alligator.
Chop their heads off is what they're going to do.
Oh,
They
my
still
goodness.
live for a little bit, though.
They do. They run around.
Yeah, it's creepy.
I think it's just like your nerve endings firing off. I don't think they're alive anymore. They're just kind of running around.
Oh, so they mimic the saying of chickens with their heads cut off.
That's what they do. They
what
mimic
came
this.
first, the chicken with the head cut off, or the saying?
Or the saying, yeah.
The saying, and then the chickens were like, "What if we just ran around like
what if
crazy?
we did this? Okay, what if we took this literally?
Look, everybody is getting their heads cut off. We've realized this about us now. Why don't we just have some fun with it? Okay, all right. If it's all good, if it's gonna be the inevitable. Dylan, what was the funniest from the weekend for you?
So the funniest for me was the broadcast for the Mets with Keith Hernandez and then Ron Darling. They were addressing the C.J. Abrams situation and had a little funny little back and forth here.
I can see 4 in the morning, but not 8 a.m. Spoken like a man with experience.
I mean,
so well,
True
fun
words
back
right
and forth
there.
between some teammates. So
Usually, if you see 4 in the morning, you're probably not seeing 8 a.m.
No.
Not awake. So, spoken like a man with experience. That's true. My funniest is 10 minutes ago when Dylan said he didn't know who Jim. No. My funniest is we got the clip in there from Tom Brady.
He was born without
4.
an arm. Did he ever get it? He never got it back? No.
Okay. No. But he was able to pitch though because he had the glove.
hell of a
hang on, let me check. Okay, no. Nope.
Michigan guy, Michigan man.
This was my funniest. As soon as he said it, I immediately went to my notes and put it down for potentially learn funniest best. This is my funniest. Before half at the Dallas Cowboys-Ravens game, CeeDee Lamb was not happy that he wasn't really getting the ball. And so
a receiver, no.
Yeah, and so he and Dak, and then there's other offensive linemen, and he's sort of upset. And here's what Tom Brady had to say.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting halftime, challenging the mental toughness, and you want to see what your leaders of the team, how they respond. And I don't know, I like to see good body language out there. Everyone's competitive, but this is when you need to rally around all your team leaders.
Tom Brady. I like to see good body language there on the sideline. Tom Brady, the guy who would yell at his coaches, throw the Microsoft tablets, yell at his receivers, scream. I don't know, guys. I just like to see good body language when it's not me doing it.
I took it the other way. How boring and cliched that response was, like all of his analysis.
Yeah, what happened? He's
Tom
the most cliche. You know, you got to really establish the run. You got to run the football. You got to stop the run. Like, it's the... I thought he was going to be like when Romo started, and
Romo's a unicorn, man.
It was new, but even Romo kind of backed away a little bit from that. Like, I thought Tom Brady was going to be like that, bring something new to the table. You're paying that guy how much money to just regurgitate
every other money.
Old talking points?
I don't know.
He's like Dan Deerdorf. Deerdorf was like programmed. I remember my kid when he was like 10 years old. He's like, it wasn't Deerdorf. It was somebody like that, a clone. He's like, I know what they're going to say after every play. I'm like, yeah. They got their canned answers. It's almost like Madden.
I don't know.
When you're playing.
I didn't expect Tom Brady to say that he wanted to see good body language from players interacting on the sideline, considering who the source of saying that was in Tom Brady. Yeah, I was not expecting that. Let's go to our best from the weekend. Mick, you lead us off.
The best is Arthur Blank putting himself into the Ring of Honor in Atlanta. Barstool had a tweet in quotations that said, "Congratulations to Arthur Blank on this historic honor, Arthur Blank," and it had the meme of Photoshop of Obama putting the Medal of Honor on himself. And so that was just so funny to me. Are there other owners that are in their Hall of Fame that got put there while they were owning the team?
I don't know. Was Lamar while he was
I don't
alive?
think so. I don't know.
Jerry.
I can't imagine Lamar doing that. Jerry, maybe, yeah.
Jerry would actually put himself in there. Like, this was at least a committee that voted.
Was it?
Yeah, like a committee voted there, and they're like, let's vote in Arthur Blank because we like our jobs. How do we make sure that we will have this job in perpetuity? I know one way to solidify that. We got tenure. You just started. You already have tenure. You voted in Arthur Blank. Dylan, the best for you from the weekend?
Best for me, I thought Devin Singletary going down at the 1-yard line, a la Jerick McKinnon, getting the Jerick McKinnon of the Week award was
Church
the best
mode.
for me. Yep, church mode.
Yep, I love that. I was going up against Singletary in fantasy, so I really appreciate Singletary going down.
I'm really killing it with my Learn Funniest Best today.
No, that was great. No, I was going up
one.
against him. It was a best. It was one of my best too. My best is at 8:50 last night on Twitter. Fellow by the name of at Mick Schaefer This tweet will inevitably haunt me, but those uprights could be 6 feet apart for Butker, and he'd be fine. 40 minutes later, dong.
Felt like 40 seconds.
The kick, extra point off the uprights, the doink. 40 minutes. Butker hasn't missed a kick in 10 months. And Mick Schaefer, it took him 40 minutes after Mick texted or tweeted about him missing a kick.
Oh, I heard it. And it was so funny. Some of the responses, so many people called me a son of a bitch. It was so great. It was so
What
good.
about the tweet, though?
The tweet?
What
You
about
have a lot
for
of
the
power,
tweet?
by the way, Mick.
Go ahead, Dylan.
That was great.
Stop it. Yeah, this guy with the doink off. This guy, he hit the flag. Stop it. I love doinks.
No more comments the rest of the game, please. Pointless use of 107 characters. This is a Wednesday tweet, not in the middle of Sunday Night Football. Come on, Mick. This didn't age well. Why would you even do this? That didn't take long. Don't be jinxing us. What did you do? Thanks a lot. Only aged 40 minutes. Come on, man. Do better. This is your fault.
Do better.
Good one. Why would you ever tweet that? And then somebody sent me a picture of Putin. That's it.
It's just amazing that it took all of 40 minutes when you
Dude,
first.
so I learned this. I think maybe Danny tweeted out he's only missed 5 kicks ever under 40 yards for a field goal, but has missed 19 extra points.
It's crazy. Yeah, it's something about when they're 3 points, he's fine. Yeah. It's like Steph Curry. The closer he gets to the bucket,
That's right.
lower the percentage. Best for you, Sterling?
Travis Kelce broke Justin Tucker because ever since that whole thing happened in the playoffs, Justin
Right.
Tucker might be the worst kicker in football.
Is he like the only one that still has missed that? The only misses after over 50 yards are him?
Yeah, basically, he's missed 2 50-plus, not made a single one. He is now 2 for 5 on field goals 40 yards or longer.
Wow.
All it took was somebody calling him a B, and then he would have been done. We'll take a time out, come back, wrap up the show next. By the way, did you guys see the Temple kicker? 64-yard kick. He's
Yes.
at Temple. Aubrey hit a 65-yarder for the Cowboys. And it was like, oh, my God, the dude hit a 65-yarder for the Cowboys.
They got to change some stuff. For the new kickoff, have them kick at the 25. Then there won't be that many out of bounds. They'll hit that landing zone more.
Yeah. But
Forget 35, 25.
The kicker's legs are freaking cannons now, man.
That's why you need to narrow the field goal. Narrow the uprights to 6 feet.
Yeah, because then Butker would still be fine.
I think Butker was maybe just trying to hit it. He's that good. He's trying to hit the upright.
Like, hey, Ariza, watch this. We're going to win. It's not a big deal. I'm going to hit the uprights. Bet you $10.
Ariza's like, I can jump out of the gym.
I'll save this one. Gotcha.